Chapter 1090. The holy light particle was injected into Aurora's body, and it began to fuse with her cells. The life arcana in her body also instantly became restless, producing an intense reaction. Platinum light shone out from every inch of Aurora's skin, and she turned into a dazzling human-shaped light source. Every strand of her hair seemed to have materialized as she floated in the air, exuding a noble, beautiful, and holy aura. His eyes quickly adapted to the strong light, and Han Shao stared at the transforming Aurora with his eyes wide open. He held the empty containment device, and once there were signs of backlash, he would give Aurora another injection to suck out the holy light particle. To Han Zhao's relief, the fusion process was very smooth. When the light faded, Aurora slowly landed on the ground, as if she was still immersed in the feeling just now. Snap! Han Shao snapped his fingers in front of her eyes. How do you feel? It seems quite comfortable? Aurora covered her chest with a look of uncertainty. Since there is no backlash, you are already the host of the holy light particle. Can you feel its power? You mean this? Aurora closed her eyes and felt it for a moment. She then extended her hand, palm facing up, and shook it slightly. Immediately, a cluster of golden light popped out. The particles were very strong, like a group of fireflies gathered together. She grasped it so quickly? Generally speaking, the host would need a period of adaptation after fusing with the primal arcana. It was said that the shorter the adaptation period, the higher the compatibility of the host. The characteristics of the life arcana and the holy light particle are indeed very compatible, and there might be some kind of chemical reaction. This way, I can maximize the use of the holy light particle, and it will be convenient for me to carry out my plan. Han Shao stroked his chin. He raised his hand to touch the cluster of light in Aurora's palm, and this cluster of light actually dodged to the side. Han Shao was amused. Ah Sheng, I know that you can share the host's senses after the fusion and can hear me. Don't play dead. How is this host? The holy light particle bubbled and let out a comfortable snoring sound like a cat stretching itself. It no longer despised Aurora and immediately changed its words. It's so comfortable. This is the first time I've felt such surging vitality. This is the best host I've ever experienced. That's not what you said just now. Aurora wrinkled her nose in dissatisfaction. I was wrong. Other than you, no one else is worthy of me. The holy light particle circled around Aurora like a spoiled puppy that was pestering its owner. Han Shao curled his lips. TSK, weren't you acting tough just now? In the blink of an eye, you've become a bootlicker. Tell me, isn't it nice? Aurora practiced for a while and soon got used to it. In her perception, it was as if she had suddenly gained a new limb that she could control with ease. Practice more when you get back. The primal Esper ability has multiple effects. With the holy light particle, your self-protection ability will also rise to the next level, Han Shao reminded. Aurora's role was to be a healer, and her life Esper ability lacked combat power. Now that she had become the host of the holy light particle, she had obtained new abilities such as strengthening her physique, super speed, dimension travel, and punishing evil. Especially the dimension travel, which allowed her mobility to jump several levels. If she encountered any danger in the future, it would be much easier for her to escape. However, what Han Shao valued the most was the ability to provide holy light seed. He tested it and was pleasantly surprised to find that his idea was correct. Aurora's life Esper ability could indeed replenish the consumption of the holy light particle's origin core. This meant that the new energy system of providing holy light seeds in batches was feasible. This was very useful to the Black Star Corps. On one hand, it could motivate the players and army soldiers. On the other hand, it could attract a large number of ordinary people and let them see the hope of becoming supers. Han Shao explained his idea to her. Aurora was a little scared, and her tone was a little timid. You want to popularize it on a large scale? More or less, but now that you're the host, I have to get your permission." Hearing this, Aurora wanted to say something but stopped. She had just tested the ability to split the holy light seed. Although her body could withstand it, it would consume a lot of life energy. If she used it on a large scale, she did not know if the life energy she naturally accumulated every day would be enough. She might even experience the feeling of being drained dry every day. After hesitating for a while, Aurora suddenly made up her mind, closed her eyes and said firmly, "All right, I can withstand it." "Why do you look like you're going to die honorably?" Han Xiao pinched her nose and joked. "Don't worry, I won't let you bleed for nothing. You can take back the holy light seed. Not only can this replenish your energy, it can also help you grow faster. It's much faster than you accumulating life energy every day. It's not good to take away the fruits of other people's hard work like this." Aurora was a little resistant. This was not in line with her principles. "Ha ha ha." Han Xiao laughed and said with the tone of a big capitalist, "Isn't that simple? Money can't solve everything, but it can solve most problems. I'll hire a group of people, and their job is to cultivate the holy light seed. After they cultivate it, they'll harvest it for you. Actually, this is no different from working for me. It's just that the content of the job is different. In essence, it's them contributing their time to create value for me. As long as the remuneration is enough, it's a mutually agreeable transaction. There's no need to feel guilty." That makes sense. Although Aurora was more of a lawful kind person, she was not stubborn. She did not have any resistance after hearing this. Taking away the fruits of other people's hard work without saying anything and saying that it was a job from the start were two completely different things. Using meditation and rituals to cultivate the holy light seed could also be used to clock in. In essence, it was no different from the army's clerks. They were all workers. Han Xiao chose Aurora as his host not only to maximize the potential of the holy light seed, but also to let Aurora enjoy the leak growth rate of the holy light seed and increase her leveling speed. In any case, Aurora did not have any bottleneck. Harvesting leeks was many times faster than accumulating life force naturally. It was equivalent to a large group of people helping her accumulate experience. In his eyes, it was similar to the shadow clone technique. The sooner Aurora stepped into a new level, the sooner the germinal organization would have 3 beyond grade A supers. After encountering the underworld dimension, Han Xiao already had such thoughts. His goal was not to improve Aurora's healing ability but the effect of the underworld. Only when Aurora reached beyond grade A could she complete the Edo Tensei operation. Compared to her healing ability, Han Xiao was more interested in the group of experts sleeping in the underworld. They were a group of super strong combatants. "I'm really a little genius," Han Xiao chuckled. The only hidden danger was the Holy Covenant organization. This group of people had an extraordinary interest in primal esper abilities. If they knew that the holy light seed was on Aurora, they would most likely find a chance to snatch it. However, this was also a good way to lure the snake out of its hole. If the Holy Covenant organization continued to hide, he would not be able to find them. The Holy Covenant organization might not have the guts to attack him again, but they would definitely dare to attack the supers under him. As for Aurora's safety, Han Xiao naturally would not neglect it. He was prepared to give Aurora a king mechanical suit as well. Not only that, he also planned to build a few more sets of spare king and place the teleportation locator throne on different people to ensure that he could descend at any time. The king was purely a teleportation device. The king was expensive to build, so it was very extravagant. However, as a shareholder of the Limitless Financial Group and the profitable business of the Evolutionary Totem, he could earn a large amount of anas every year. His money was more than enough to cover this part of the cost. After giving some instructions, Han Xiao told Aurora to go back and properly develop the Holy Light Seed. When she was ready, he would start the Holy Light Emissary Plan. Watching Aurora leave the room, Han Xiao could not help but think of Evans. The 2 gold fingers of this old man in his previous life had been taken away by him. How's Evans doing now? Philip popped his head out. He's still figuring out his Esper ability. Han Xiao looked at the monitor. Ever since Evans was sent back by him, he had been receiving secret training. Because he did not have any instructions, he had not copied a single Esper ability yet. He had no combat ability and was at the lowest grade E. Have you found the target I asked you to find? Han Xiao asked. I've locked onto the immortals with matching abilities. The list is as follows. A pocket-sized bookcase appeared next to Philip. He rummaged through it and took out a stack of information. He threw it into the air, and the flying pieces of paper turned into virtual screens, showing the files of different people, floating in front of Han Xiao. Han Xiao could not help but glance at him. Young man, why are you so dramatic? Are you giving me a show? While pressing Philip's face with his fingers and rubbing him back and forth on the table, Han Xiao quickly read through the files. His new God cultivation plan followed the path of absorption and planned the growth path for Evans. He had always been looking for the most suitable Esper abilities to possess early on, and the players in these files all belonged to 2 specific types of Esper ability users: the physical strengthening type and the mental strengthening type. The burden of grade E was not high, and copying 2 was the most suitable. Body and mind were the most important basic qualities, so this was the most optimal configuration. Evans had his support and did not need to walk the same path as God, so he did not have to worry about his early combat strength. His main goal was to build a foundation. Just these 2. After choosing the 2 players with the best abilities, Han Xiao asked Philip to give them exclusive missions. At this time, the interface suddenly had a notification. Liberating Beast Ancestor Forces. Completed. Oh? The troops sent out a few months ago succeeded? Han Xiao's eyes sparkled. Before going to the secondary dimensions, a group of Beast Ancestor officers led by Jotina had come to him and made a request to liberate the Beast Ancestors base. At that time, Han Xiao had given the mission to the Shattered Star Ring's main forces. Now that a few months had passed, there were finally results. It seemed to be very successful, and there should be a bunch of new people who would recognize him as their father soon. The last planet of Beast Ancestors' base was ablaze, as if the Earth was burning. The planet's defense facilities had all been destroyed, and a large number of spaceship fragments were floating in outer space. Black Star Corps battleships floated above the planet, using tractor beams to absorb a large number of resources and countless captives. Most of them were rescued mothers and ignorant young offspring. In the cabin of one of the transport ships, captives of different species were huddled together in groups of 2 or 3, full of uneasiness. Teams of Black Star warriors pulled everyone apart, separating the warriors, mothers, young offspring, and other captives. Don't move, stand still. The captain of the transport ship commanded loudly. At the side, Mia, who was wearing a black combat suit and dressed in the style of Hela, had her hands crossed, using her forearm to support a mechanical spear. Her upper body leaned forward, placing her center of gravity on her arm. Her fingers were holding a bag of snacks, popping candy into her mouth from time to time. Her eyes scanned the large group of captives in front of her. Teams of Beast Ancestor captives were sucked into the cabin, and the crowd was a little restless, seemingly having the intention to resist. However, when they saw Mia standing by the wall, these restless captives trembled and quickly gave up on the idea. In the battle just now, they had personally seen a Calamity-grade officer guarding the base being brutally chopped into pieces by Mia. No one dared to mess around in front of her. At this time, there was a commotion not far away. Mia turned around and saw a few rescued mothers arguing with the Black Star warriors. "Who are you people? Do you know who our spouse is? How dare you offend us? Let go, don't pull me. When His Excellency Beast Ancestor returns, he'll crush you to death." These fellows were pushed into the crowd by the Black Star warriors, but they were still cursing and swearing. They could not stop mentioning the name of the beast ancestor. Looking at this scene, Mia pursed her lips and shook her head. At this time, the captain of the transport ship sighed. "It's very sad, isn't it? These mothers that are under house arrest by beast ancestor are basically isolated from the outside world. To most people, this is a dark and hopeless life, but there are a few people who are distorted and worship beast ancestor instead, taking pride in this identity. Although our mission is to save these mothers, there might be many people who do not want to be saved by us and only want to continue with their previous life." Mia glanced at him and said, "Do your job. I only have the mission in my eyes. I'm not interested in this kind of thing." The captain of the transport ship stopped talking and continued to instruct his subordinates to do their work. At this time, Mia's communicator rang. Jotana's flirtatious and wild face popped up, but this face was now filled with a holy and motherly radiance. "How are the mothers and their offspring? Have they been saved?" Jotana asked impatiently. Mia smiled and said, "Don't worry, they've been saved. They're all very touched." "That's great. I'll report the good news to the army commander now." Jotana was overjoyed. "By the way, when you come back, I'll teach you a few powerful moves." Without waiting for a reply, Jotana hastily hung up the communication. "What an impatient person!" Mia laughed. Although Jotana had made a mating request to her boss in public and was shocked for a moment, after interacting with her for a while, the army officers realized that she was actually very easy to get along with. She had a straightforward and decisive personality, and after a few months, she had become quite popular. This was especially so for Mia, who had the best relationship with her. Both of them were muscular and had endless common topics to talk about. Putting away the communicator, Mia looked at the crowd in front of her again. Her gaze swept across the confused and panicked faces, and she heaved a sigh of relief. "Nero, your godfather is really an incredible person. As expected of the man that even Her Excellency Hela is willing to follow, although Black Star had defeated Garutan out of personal revenge, the result was indeed a great thing for the entire universe." Mia admired him from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 1091. The silver alloy door slowly slid open on both sides. Inside was a room completely made of polymer materials. The walls and floor were a spotless milky white, and the reflective enamel gave it a sense of roundness. 5 large display cabinets were distributed in the middle of the room in a pentagram shape. Each of the cabinets had a beyond grade A frozen by the spacetime amber. Their postures were different, and everyone's expression was fixed on their faces. Other than that, there was nothing else in the room. "This is my collection room." A group of people walked into the room. The one who spoke first was Han Shao, followed by Jotana and a group of former Beast Ancestor officers. The troops that went out had just destroyed Beast Ancestor's base, and Jotana had dragged a group of brothers and sisters over to thank him again. Han Shao still remembered that he had promised them to visit Garutan, so he had brought them over. This was the collection room where he had placed the 5 beyond grade A captive. The names of each captive were written on the display cabinet. They were Ethereal's Red Devil Tolian, Radiance's Lone Ranger Jackernitz, Energy Soul Wumra Hades, and Beast Ancestor Garutan. The 5 beyond grade A specimens were displayed here. This was the best proof of his achievement. Just this scene alone was enough to shock everyone. Jotana locked onto Garutan at a glance. Seeing this enemy that she had feared for many years frozen in amber, she only felt extremely happy. "You also have a day like this." Jotana clenched her fists in excitement. She only felt that this was the happiest day of her life. The dark days of the past no longer existed, and the world in front of her seemed to have regained its color. It was as if there was a fresh breath rising in her mind, washing away the hatred, despair, and anger that had accumulated like mountains. Only the refreshment and hope of a new life was left. She turned around and looked at Han Xiao. Her eyes were filled with admiration and gentleness. In her eyes, Black Star seemed to be exuding a holy light, like a street lamp that led her to a new life. Sensing Jotana's passionate gaze, Han Xiao's face twitched slightly. He hadn't had much contact with Jotana, but her straightforwardness and enthusiasm were still fresh in his mind. The reward of liberating the Beast Ancestors faction had been settled, and he had gained a lot of favorability. He estimated that Jotana's loyalty was almost off the chart. Han Xiao coughed dryly and said, "There are still some people among you who haven't been assigned a specific position. It just so happens that we've rescued a large number of Beast Ancestors' young descendants. I'll leave this group of people to you to teach. Is that okay?" "No problem." Everyone nodded. They were very happy with this arrangement. "Then you guys take your time here. I still have some things to take care of." Han Xiao found an excuse to leave by himself. Jotana and the others had been repressed for many years, and he did not intend to disturb this group of people to vent their emotions. Anyway, with Philip watching over them, he did not need to stay here. Returning to his office, Han Xiao thought about the personnel allocation in the army. Currently, the top calamity-grade combatants under my command are only Hardaway, Lothair, Fu Ding, and Jotana. The rest of them have yet to fully mature. These dozen or so Beast Ancestor officers have a lot of weight. Together with this group of rescued Beast Ancestors' young descendants, a new faction will be formed in the army in the future. There were no factions within the Black Star Army. The Black Star Army was also divided into various factions. Excluding Han Xiao himself, it could be roughly divided into a few large factions. The first was the Patriarch faction led by Herluz, which was further divided into smaller factions such as Sunil, Ghidorah, Blue Star, and so on. This faction represented the older members of the army. The second was the academic faction led by Lagi and Nero, which was basically made up of graduates of the Super Academy and was very active. The third was the main faction led by some of the Calamity-grade supers who joined later. This faction was the largest, and it was mainly made up of official warriors and mercenaries without any backing. The fourth was the administrative faction led by Sylvia and Reynold, which was mainly made up of non-combatant clerks who were in charge of the army's daily affairs, logistics, and so on. After Jotana and the others gained a foothold in the army, there was an 80% chance that they would band together and form the Beast Ancestor faction, or rather, the Light faction. As for Hela, she was a lone wolf and did not have a faction. The influence of the Black Star Guards on the various departments of the army was limited, and their functions did not overlap. Thus, they could not form a faction. Lothair, who was running the Assassin's Society outside, was a secret and could not be considered part of any faction in the army. These factions would also fight in private, but with Han Xiao suppressing them, they were very restrained. Every large organization would have internal conflicts as time passed or expanded. However, the Black Star Corps had only been established for a short time and was still very young. Thus, the level of internal conflicts was very low, limited to the internal conflicts of some businesses. It was impossible to completely eliminate them. Everyone had their own thoughts, and it was impossible to ask others to contribute selflessly. Even a loyal backbone like Herluz had his own personal interests, which was to seek more benefits for the Sunil race. Power could constantly change people's thought. The longer the senior officers served the army, the more things they wanted. Furthermore, the supers who joined the Black Star Corps later on did so to seek a brighter future. Everyone wanted to climb higher, and no matter how big the cake was, the competition would not disappear. The same goes for the Development Union. It's just a startup now, and the concept of factions is vague. When the resources are integrated to a certain extent, it will definitely split into different factions. Han Xiao thought. He could guess that the three universal civilizations would use this method to infiltrate the Beyond Grade A Association. There would always be a portion of people who did not agree with the Beyond Grade A United Front from the bottom of their hearts, so they would be easily pulled over. There would also be more people who were easily swayed. The Beyond Grade as were all unruly people, and the root of the division was their different opinions. The structure of the development union was destined to be filled with disputes in the future, and the upper echelons above the director level would definitely understand the importance of being united. The resource integration phase of the association was an important period of accumulation. As the vice president, he was nominally suppressed by Madison, but this could not make him a mere figurehead. The source of his right to speak was his own strength and influence in the association. The resource integration phase is also an opportunity for me. I can use my advantages to make more friends, build my own faction, and slowly shorten the gap between Madison and me. As long as I have more people supporting me, I'll be able to compete with Madison in daily decisions, which will be beneficial for my future re-election. If I don't do something, I might not be able to keep my position as the vice president, Han Shao pondered. He had chosen to take a step back in order to accumulate. There was a good opportunity right now. Although the three universal civilizations had tacitly acknowledged the legitimacy of the development union, the Dark Emperor's mission had not ended yet. In other words, the honorary director Claudi in name would still make a move against the other members, which would undoubtedly damage the reputation of the development union. This was the provocation and contempt of the universal civilizations, as well as an aggressive test. In this case, those neutral Beyond Grade, as hired by the supercluster civilizations, should be panicking. This seems to be an opportunity for me to take advantage of it. If I exert influence on the dynasty and make the upper echelons stop the Dark Emperor's actions, not only will I be able to show the importance of my position as the vice president, but I'll also be able to gain the favor of these neutral Beyond Grade as. With this in mind, Han Shao asked Philip to send a message to all the neutral Beyond Grade, as in the association. He first asked about their well-being, then mentioned the Dark Emperor, beating around the bush. Although he had decided to deal with this matter personally, Han Shao did not want to keep a low profile. Helping others in secret was usually the act of a spare tire. He would either not do it or let everyone know that he was the one who did it. Therefore, Han Technician planned to first contact these neutral Beyond Grade, as who were targeted by the Dark Emperor, and have them raise this matter in front of everyone in the next plenary meeting. All the Beyond Grade A members would hold a plenary meeting every once in a while. The development union's reason made this behavior justifiable. This was also one of the original intentions of building a communication platform. Speaking of which, the Dark Emperor captured Traveler, and this guy pushed the blame to Sorokin. The dynasty will definitely not let this go. I wonder what methods they will use to punish the Limitless Financial Group. Han Shao chuckled. Beep beep. At this time, his communicator suddenly rang. Radiance and Ethereal had sent messages one after another. The content was the 11th revised ransom clause. Han Shao browsed through it. Compared to the first version, Radiance and Ethereal's compensation terms were much more generous. Because he had not replied with any suggestions, the drafting staff of the two parties were about to go crazy. They deeply felt how terrifying a client who did not give any specific requests was. It's been a few months. The torture is about over. It's time to have a result. Han Shao smacked his lips and changed some conditions on the basis of the two clauses, such as changing part of the resource compensation to gold-grade blueprints. The two universal civilizations had a lot of gold-grade blueprints in their inventory, and what they took out to exchange were all filtered conventional equipment. However, this was not important. Since this was one of the sources of God's trait transformation points, Han Shao had a huge need for gold-grade blueprint. As soon as the two offers were sent out, The diplomats of Radiance and Ethereal were immediately excited. They immediately sent a communication request to Han Xiao to start a formal negotiation. Han Xiao did not torture the other party this time. After bargaining for a while, he came to an agreement to exchange for 3 Universal Treasure grade blueprints. The first batch of captives he planned to return was Tolian and Hades, 1 each from each party. For the time being, he did not sell the captives of Radiance to Ethereal. Although this kind of provocation was useful, it also had its drawbacks. Anyway, he still had 2 other captives of Radiance in his hands, and they could be sold at a good price. Han Xiao now needed influence with the universal civilizations to increase his voice in the development union. The way to maximize his benefits was to bide his time. As long as there were captives in his hands, the Radiant Federation would have to give him face to a certain extent. Ethereal would also have a last hope, so he would not easily let go of all the captives. After confirming the agreement, Han Xiao looked at the 2 relaxed diplomats and slowly said, "I'll be waiting for the day you publicly apologize." Radiance and Ethereal had to publicly apologize for attacking the Black Star Core. This was the first condition of the compensation agreement. Okay, please pay attention to the news. The 2 diplomats bowed in different manners before ending the communication. Their remote projections disappeared before Han Xiao's eyes. Han Xiao leaned back, crossed his legs, and murmured, "Radiance and Ethereal have already given up. The Federation's church has given in for the time being, and the dynasty has also fulfilled the decree of the evolutionary totem to repair their relationship with me. On the surface, they won't use force against the development union. This way, the 3 universal civilizations should be quiet for a while." He was very clear about the nature of the 3 universal civilizations. It would probably be calm for a few months or even a year. However, this was only the calm before the storm because the 3 universal civilizations still had an old enemy to deal with. It was the Supercluster Alliance that had been quietly expanding in the free competition zone. When the 3 universal civilizations were ready, they would definitely give the Supercluster Alliance a head-on blow. This time, they would not be as gentle as they were with the Development Union. They would definitely use thunderous means to dispel the unrealistic ambitions of these supercluster civilizations. In other words, the reason why the 3 universal civilizations were tolerant of the Beyond grade as was because the Supercluster Alliance was the #1 enemy that needed to be dealt with urgently. This half a year to a year is perfect for me to keep a low profile and accumulate experience. Han Xiao glanced at the interface. There was a huge influx of experience every day. Although the cost of leveling up from level 320 to level 340 was astronomical, with the merciless leak harvesting machine, he would be able to gather it sooner or later. Now that the players were familiar with the gameplay of the Flickering World version, they were gradually getting on the right track. They did not neglect to explore and PK. Han Xiao planned to enrich their gaming experience. Taking advantage of this free time, he planned to hold the army tournament that he had previously planned and turn it into a large-scale festival for the faction. As the saying went, a horse would not get fat without eating at night. Only when the players were happy would they have more motivation to work. At the same time, in a secret location in Black Star Palace, a player named Paradise Disco was led by 2 mechanical soldiers into a dark tunnel. He passed through layers of security and walked into a dark tunnel. This corridor did not have any decorations, only a pale white ceiling light extending all the way into the distance. At the end of his line of sight was a metal wall at the corner. The tunnel was silent, and only the monotonous sound of footsteps could be heard. Paradise Disco only felt that the atmosphere was horrifying. He could not help but ask, "Bro, where are we going?" The 2 mechanical soldiers did not intend to answer. They did not even turn around, and their footsteps were still in sync. Why so mysterious? Paradise Disco lowered his head, opened the interface, and mumbled softly, What kind of mission is this? In the mission list, a mission called Special Experiment was shining brightly. Paradise Disco remembered that he had not done anything, and this mission suddenly triggered on its own. He was required to follow the mechanical soldiers to a designated location to carry out a special experiment. Other than that, there was no other description. However, the reward was very generous, comparable to 7 or 8 Grade B missions. His curiosity drove him to accept this mission, and he kept thinking along the way. Does this involve the secrets of the Black Star Corps? Has the army been carrying out some kind of forbidden secret experiment? Why am I the one who triggered it? Did I successfully sneak into Europe this time? Just as he was thinking, the 2 mechanical soldiers in front of him stopped. They had reached the end of the tunnel, and there was a plain alloy door. After swiping the access card, the door opened. Paradise Disco looked in curiously, and a white laboratory appeared in front of his eyes. At this time, there was already another player in the room, and he also looked over. The 2 of them looked at each other, and they were both stunned. You accepted the mission too? Special experiment, right? That's right, that's it. Do you know what the mission is about? I don't know. I just got here too. So mysterious. I like it. The 2 of them gathered together and exchanged information. Their curiosity was getting stronger and stronger. Since they had come to such a secret place like the headquarters, it was definitely not a small matter. At this time, a team of mechanical soldiers pushed 2 devices that looked like life support pods into the room. The 2 mechanical soldiers took out a mask device that could block one's senses and handed it to the 2 players. The leader of the mechanical soldiers said with an emotionless voice, "Lie in the pod, put on the mask, and wait for the experiment to start." The 2 players looked at each other and had no choice but to do as they were told. They suppressed their curiosity and went to sleep in the pod. Paradise Disco put on the mask, and he instantly fell into darkness. His vision, hearing, and smell were all taken away. This way, he would not know what was happening outside. His hands and feet were locked tightly, and he could not move at all. Under such circumstances, the waiting time was especially unbearable. Every minute and second felt like a year. Paradise Disco was getting more and more curious. He even had the urge to break free and take off the mask to see what was going on. However, the high failure penalty of this mission made him want to give up. Your B+ potential Esper ability, your super strengthened muscle and bone inflation, has been taken away. You have entered ability frozen state. You are unable to use any skills related to your Esper ability. Duration, unlimited. What? Paradise Disco was stunned for a moment before his face turned pale. Chapter 1092. Where's my Esper ability? On the interface, a large number of skills turned gray and were frozen. Even the passive attribute bonus from his Esper ability was gone. Paradise Disco panicked and struggled to get out of the fixed cabin. This time, a cold metal hand pressed on his chest and pinned him down. Clearly, the mechanical soldier was stopping him from moving. Paradise Disco was wearing a mask that blocked his senses, so he could only see darkness in front of him. He could not see what was happening outside, so he gave up on struggling and waited for the experiment to end. After who knew how long, Paradise Disco felt the device that locked his hands and feet suddenly loosened. He stood up immediately, took off his mask, and looked around nervously. He realized that the scene around him was still the same as before. The mechanical soldier seemed to have not moved at all. My Esper ability is gone. Are you the same? The other player who participated in the experiment was also released. He was surprised. Yeah, mine is gone too. The 2 of them quickly discussed the situation and realized that they were both in the ability freeze state that lasted for an unlimited amount of time. Paradise Disco hurriedly asked the mechanical soldier beside him, "What did you do to us just now?" The mechanical soldier answered according to Han Zhao's preset answer. Just an experiment. The army is developing a special device to suppress Esper ability genes. It might be widely used in the future. They are indeed developing a secret weapon. The two of them looked at each other and saw the realization in each other's eyes. Paradise Disco could not wait to ask the question that concerned them the most. Can our abilities still be recovered? Of course. In the research and development plan, the Immortals are the best experimental target. According to the logistics department's deduction, the Immortals only need to revive once to refresh their body state and recover their abilities. In the future, the Immortals might be equipped with this kind of weapon, the mechanical soldier said expressionlessly. Hearing that their abilities could still be recovered, the two of them immediately relaxed and heaved a sigh of relief. The two of them did not doubt this explanation at all. After all, with the example of the Black Star Corps badge, evolution, developing a secret weapon sounded like something the army would do. In the eyes of the players, this evil organization was exactly the same as the Black Star Corps. This is the army's secret plan. You've all signed a confidentiality agreement. Remember not to reveal what happened here to anyone. As the mechanical soldier spoke, it returned the communication devices that it had confiscated before the experiment to the two of them. Its expression was rather serious. Paradise Disco took back his communication device and exchanged glances with the players beside him. Both of them could see the joy in each other's eyes. Confidentiality agreement? Hee, that won't be able to stop us. Do you think that by taking away our communication devices, you can prevent us from leaking out? How is that possible? The army can't possibly control the forums, right? Do you think the army will be able to find out about our post? The two of them were secretly excited and were already thinking about sharing this secret on the forum. It was not to destroy the interests of the army, but the urge to reveal spoilers could not be stopped. Didn't you hear what the mechanical soldier said? The army might be able to popularize this weapon on a large scale in the future. Wouldn't that be another suicide weapon after the nuclear bomb backpack and the evolutionary badge? We found out earlier than anyone else, so we can boast to others. Of course, the two of them did not know that this was just an excuse made by Han Xiao. He did not want to expose Evan's existence, so he thought of a reason to hide it so that the outside world would not be suspicious. He purposely told the mechanical soldiers to tell the two of them so that they could spread misleading information and make the players think that this was some secret weapon research project. This way, when he recruited other players in the future, he would not have to think of other excuses and could push all the blame to this project. The mission completion notification popped up on the interface. The two of them collected everything and were too lazy to go back the way they came, so they asked the mechanical soldiers to send them to heaven. A white light flashed, and the two of them appeared in the crowded base hall. The first thing they did was check their status. My abilities have really recovered. Paradise Disco was finally relieved. He immediately opened the forums and recorded what had just happened. He wrote the title, "Shocking! The Army's secret weapon is actually," and posted it. Reality proved that there was a reason why this post was so popular. This post quickly attracted the attention of some players, and people started to comment below. Is it real? Why haven't I seen this mission before? Suppress Esper genes? I remember that Black Star used to have a happy hut that specialized in extracting the genes of galactic pirates. Could it have been improved? If we have this kind of weapon, won't we be able to kill Esper players from other factions like killing chickens? Can you have some imagination? This kind of treasure might be able to knock out NPCs and make those powerful characters lose their ability to resist and be at the mercy of others. Stop talking. I already have 10 gigabytes worth of images in my head. Speaking of which, the Army's secret weapons are getting more and more evil. The aberrations are already too much, and now they're even developing the 10 fragrance tendon weakening powder for espers. Are we really a proper organization? It seems like the deputy army commander is an esper. Could it be that the army commander failed to sleep with her, so he secretly developed this kind of weapon and wants to use force? The husband gang is furious. You won #. Black Star is a heartless bastard. Hela and I will live and die together. You're reading on Novel/. Just as the players on the forum were imagining things, a secret door in a secret training room deep in the base opened, and a man in a black hood walked out. He took off his clothes and revealed his face. It was Evans. There was a secret passage in this training room that led directly to the laboratory just now. According to Han Zhao's instructions, he quietly went over and absorbed the esper abilities of the two immobilized players. Before this, he had confirmed with Han Zhao again and again that the immortal's incapacitation was only temporary. This is the feeling of extraordinary power. Evans raised his right arm and clenched it into a fist. A small amount of energy flowed out of his cells and into the muscles and bones of his arm. Boom! The next moment, his arm clearly swelled up as if he was pumped up. His muscles and bones became tougher, and his strength soared by a large margin. In his hands, his esper ability could only be used at grade E for the time being. With his meager energy, he could not even support the consumption of the air all over his body. He waved his arm a few times and made a rumbling sound. Just by inflating his arm, it was almost twice as strong as his original strength. All esper abilities had a potential rating. Generally speaking, the rating represented the upper limit of the esper's grade that the esper could reach. Although this rule did not apply to players, the rating also represented the growth and rarity of the esper ability. The rarer the esper ability, the stronger it was. Some players kept opening new accounts and spending money to farm esper abilities in order to farm rare esper abilities. Physical enhancement was a large branch of esper abilities. Even if it was the same type of esper ability, there were many variations. Some normal physical enhancement abilities might only have a grade D or C rating, but physical enhancement, muscle and bone inflation, had a grade B+ rating, which meant that it was a high-quality ability under this category. This esper ability was a semi-transformational type. Once activated, even a thin and weak bamboo pole could immediately expand into a muscular man. The other psychic ability that he absorbed also had a grade B potential rating and was of good quality. Among the players, grade A was already a rare top-notch ability. Although grade B potential was one grade lower, it was still good enough. Han Zhao had made a special plan to choose these two high-quality abilities to give to Evans so that he would not waste his esper ability slot. The combination of body and mind was beneficial for increasing basic attributes. As long as his grade increased, these two esper abilities would continue to provide additional strength, agility, endurance, and mental resistance. Evans loved these two new abilities very much. He had a lot of fun playing with them until he ran out of energy. He stopped panting, his eyes shining. After being ordinary for decades, today was the first time he enjoyed the satisfaction brought by power. The shortcut to snatching power from others exuded an unparalleled temptation, as if it could seduce a person's hidden greed. Evans felt a sense of hunger in every cell in his body. He instinctively desired to absorb new abilities, like an uncontrollable desire to overeat. His Excellency Black Star said that the changes in the body will also bring changes in the mind. This should be the change that the esper ability brought to me. Evans was deep in thought. The tenacity that he had cultivated through hardship allowed him to suppress the hunger brought by the esper ability. He was not an insatiable person. Black Star had changed his life and arranged a path for him to become stronger. All he wanted was to work hard and repay this favor in the future. He only wanted to live up to Black Star's expectations. The past few months had been eventful. First, Radiance and Ethereal joined forces to attack the Black Star Corps' stronghold, but they were repelled by Black Star. Then, the Beyond Grade A Association was established. The three universal civilizations stood at the center of the storm and had always been the focus of countless citizens and organizations. Today, the Radiant Federation and the Arcane Church finally made an official response to the rescue battle of Hela a few months ago. The wording of the press release of the two organizations was different, but the content was the same. They claimed that the alliance a few months ago was an impulse caused by a misunderstanding. At the same time, they publicly apologized to the Black Star Corps, saying that they would bear all the losses and provide additional compensation. In fact, as early as a few months ago, when the incident broke out, the black markets all over the country had started betting on whether the universal civilizations would bow to the Black Star Corps this time. The odds were very different, and most galactic residents thought that even if the universal civilizations were wrong, they would not admit it. They did not think that the Black Star Corps would receive an apology from Radiance and Ethereal. At most, they would compensate privately. Therefore, after this statement was released, it caused quite a stir. Most galactic residents were shocked. Throughout the history of the three universal civilizations, they had only bowed to private organizations under very rare circumstances. After all, a public apology would damage the authority of a universal civilization. However, Radiance and Ethereal had chosen to bow to them this time, making the Black Star Corps one of the few private organizations to enjoy this honor. The dynasty was not willing to be left out. After Radiance and Ethereal made their statements, they officially opened the evolutionary totem business, announcing that the product would no longer be subject to restrictions and would officially enter the free market. Countless civilizations had been looking forward to this day for a long time. In an instant, a large number of orders filled the mailbox of the Black Star Corps. The stock that the army had accumulated during this time was continuously shipped out, and a huge amount of cash flowed into the army's account like a surging river. Everyone knew that the Red Empire's move was to get closer to Black Star. The three universal civilizations expressed goodwill to the same person at the same time. In the hearts of others, Black Star's reputation and status rose again. Even the Beyond Grade A Circle had the same opinion. Putting everything else aside, at least Han Zhao's position as the vice president of the Development Union was strengthened. The players of today naturally would not miss out on such an event. They discussed it endlessly in the Flickering World section of the forums. Qingningzi, the army commander still has some prestige, huh? Unknown name. Are there any old players who still remember version 1.0? Back then, who would have guessed that Black Star would be such an important NPC? Look at the main characters of those novice planet. None of them became like Black Star. They're all little brothers. Heji. Why do I suddenly feel a little touched? In the blink of an eye, 4 versions have passed. It feels like I'm watching my own child grow up. Army Commander's Big PP. My son Black Star has the bearing of a great emperor. Important matters must be repeated. Upstairs, do you want to die? The players had already been shocked once when Han Zhao defeated the 12 Beyond Grade As. Having seen the world, they were much calmer now. At most, they would lament about the changes in Black Star's versions. As Radiance and Ethereal fulfilled their part of the deal, Han Zhao also kept his promise and released Tolian and Hades. Geru Star Cluster Gateway, Planet Blackgate, a sealed spaceport. The officials of Radiance and Ethereal were waiting there. The two teams were clearly separated and did not talk to each other. These people were here to pick up their captives and came to the territory of the Black Star Corps. After waiting for a while, a Black Star fleet came from afar and stopped at this dock. The hatch of the main ship opened, and a team of mechanical soldiers walked out of the spaceship with the amber specimens of Tolian and Hades. They placed these 2 pieces of art on the ground, and Han Zhao walked out behind them. Seeing this, the welcoming team of Radiance and Ethereal immediately stepped forward and surrounded Han Shao, greeting him respectfully. Your Excellency Black Star. Han Shao casually glanced at everyone and waved his hands. Since you're all here, hurry up and take them away. As he spoke, he gestured for everyone to step back. Nanoparticles blocked their vision, and after a few minutes, the amber bubbles around Tolian and Hades burst. But the two of them regained their freedom and staggered, almost falling to the ground. Seeing this, Han Shao snorted and said coldly, Radiance and Ethereal have redeemed you. Be careful in the future. If you cause trouble again and fall into my hands, don't blame me for taking some parts from you. Tolian shuddered and could not help but take a few steps back. He looked at Han Shao with fear in his eyes and could not be stubborn anymore. The past few months had been a hellish experience. He felt that if this continued, he would sooner or later be driven crazy by his life in the Amber. He did not want to experience this feeling again. Now, he only wanted to stay as far away from Black Star as possible. Hades was also afraid, but he could barely control his expression and not lose his composure. However, he was extremely disappointed. He thought that this operation would at least earn him some reputation, but he did not expect to fail. Although being defeated by Black Star was not a shameful thing, this label would probably follow him for a very long time. He did not even have a nickname, nor did he have any deeds worth mentioning. If someone asked about his famous deeds in the future, how was he supposed to answer? Was he supposed to proudly say that he had been locked up by Black Star before? Seeing that the two of them were frozen in place, Han Shao raised his eyebrows and said playfully, Why, can't bear to leave? Do you want to stay with me for a few more months? Hearing this, the two of them shuddered and did not even dare to say anything. They returned to their own welcoming team and hurriedly boarded the spaceship. The officials quickly took off and left with their allies. In the ethereal spaceship, Tolian looked dejected. 6 from ethereal came, and only 1 was caught. Why am I so unlucky? Just as he was feeling sorry for himself, the spaceship connected to several communications. They were from Saruman, Taylor, and Mercer, who had participated in the rescue of Hela. Their remote projections appeared in front of him. Hee, are you okay? Saruman smiled. I'm not okay. Tolian was depressed. Don't be so pessimistic. We were also locked up by Black Star before, but we've all gotten over it. Taylor smiled and comforted him. You guys are really magnanimous. When we come back, let's find a place to gather, Mercer said in a muffled voice. Tolian looked at the 3 smiling faces in front of him and suddenly understood. That's right, we've all been in prison before, so we have common topics to talk about. Could this be the tacit understanding between cellmates? He had not been in ethereal for long. His previous life was a wanted criminal, so he could not squeeze into the beyond grade A circle of ethereal. He was like a fringe person. Who would have thought that being locked up by Black Star would be a blessing in disguise, and he would be accepted by a group of former cellmates? Tolian's mood suddenly improved. I've finally found an organization, P.S. Brothers, let's give Han Technician a like and see if there's a chance for him to become a first-class star. Chapter 1093. After releasing the 2 captives, Han Shao did not leave Planet Black Gate immediately. Instead, he called the person in charge of the planet over and asked him to accompany him to inspect the orbital structure of Planet Black Gate. He also provided some guidance. On the way back, Han Shao inspected the operation of the Stargate toll booth. The Stargate transportation network in the Black Star Core's territory was connected from the Gerar Star cluster to the free competition zone. It was convenient, fast, and one of the few complete transportation routes in the flickering world. Of course, outsiders would have to pay a fee if they wanted to use this Stargate route. Han Shao fully utilized the talent of the Chinese to build roads if they wanted to get rich. He had set up a toll booth at every section of the Stargate. This was a true example of "this road is open by me, but you have to pay the toll." With such a natural treasure trove, the Army had already earned back the cost of building the Stargate in less than a year after the opening of the flickering world. Such a terrifying profit margin fully proved one truth: how could the profits of doing business compare to the profits of occupying land? After returning to the Black Star Palace, the first payment for the ransom of Radiance and Ethereal was sent over. Radiance had paid the most. The 3 gold-grade blueprints were all provided by him. This time, he handed over the information of the first gold-grade blueprint. Mechanical Deity Exclusive Weapon, Universal Treasure Level Mechanical Creation, Celestial Punishment Edge. In his office, Han Shao chewed on a lava-flavored concentrated nutrition bar while looking at the blueprints sent over by the Radiant Federation. The blueprints that Radiance had taken out for exchange were mostly for super weapons used in combat. This was one of the blueprints that Han Shao had chosen. According to the notes of the Radiant Federation, this was an idea proposed by the fanatical worshippers of the mechanical deity in the Saint Tyracle's race. Radiance had inherited their knowledge and modified it, incorporating some unique technology, and finally turned this incomplete idea into a blueprint. The complete design of this weapon was drawn on the blueprint, and it had some similarities to the technology of the Emperor's cape. Its appearance was a long mechanical blade with a complicated structure. It had powerful close combat technology, and at the same time, it could transform into a giant cannon form and launch a variety of long-range attacks. Its power was just like its name, and the foundation was the Star Destroyer. The Celestial Punishment Edge was similar to the Emperor's cape, and the armed class was more proficient in it. Although Han Shao was in the virtual class, he could also build it with the knowledge of all classes. But why is this style so strange? Wearing a battle robe and holding a large sword. Next time, give me a mechanical red hair, and I can play the role of the mechanical version of Guan Yu. Han Shao complained inwardly. Speaking of which, why are these Saint Tyracles so fond of designing close combat weapons? As expected, every qualified mechanic has a pugilist's soul hidden in their heart. Although he cursed in his heart, he still had to make the item. Han Shao told Philip to add the raw materials for the Celestial Punishment Edge to the next purchase list. After settling this matter, Han Shao checked Philip's message box. Not long ago, the neutral Beyond Grade A members who were hired by the supercluster had replied. Most of them were worried that they would become the target of the Dark Emperor's order to kill them. Only a few did not care. It's easy as long as there's a need. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. He chatted with these Beyond Grade As for a while, including the head of Golem's Garros, who had been scared away by him before. He hinted slightly, and these people immediately understood. They clearly expressed their willingness to support Black Star as much as possible in the development union in the future. Most of these Beyond Grade As did not want to join the 3 universal civilizations because they did not want to be restricted. However, this would not work in the development union. They were only ordinary members in the association, and their right to speak was limited. Therefore, they needed an upper echelon with power to represent their interests and get better treatment for them. This was a two-way deal, and both sides would benefit from each other. A few Beyond Grade As, including Garros, agreed to publicly raise this proposal in the next plenary meeting. Han Shao promised to work on this matter and eliminate the threat they faced. After roping in this group of people, Han Shao turned around and contacted the dynasty, preparing to inform them first. He expressed his intention, and after waiting for a while, the secretary transferred the communication to Urinril. Han Zhao's remote projection appeared in the dynasty ruler's office, and in front of him was Urinril, who was sitting behind the table. Your Excellency Ruler. Han Shao nodded in greeting. Black Star. Urinril also greeted him. She stared into Han Zhao's eyes and went straight to the point. You want me to call Claudia back? Yes, the purpose of the Development Union is to eliminate the conflict between Beyond Grade as. Now that Claudia is an honorary director, if he attacks a member again, it will go against the purpose of the association. Urinril was expressionless. In what capacity are you making this suggestion to me today? As an ally of the dynasty or as the vice president of the Development Union? Han Xiao did not bat an eyelid. Both, he said. Black Star, how do you think the dynasty has treated you over the past few decades? Win-win. Han Xiao smiled. Urinril paused for a moment before slowly saying, I have to remind you that the evolutionary totem business and the territory in the flickering world are all benefits that only allies can enjoy. The dynasty values you very much, and you know this very well. Some things were not easy to say. The dynasty did not object to Black Star becoming the vice president of the Development Union, but they did not want to see Black Stars but being too crooked. They hoped that between the two identities of being an ally of the dynasty and being the vice president, his position would be more inclined to the former. The Mecha Empire was an example. They had made too many contributions, and the Radiants had no choice but to reward them time and time again. As a result, the Mecha Empire grew stronger and broke away from their control. The dynasty did not want to create a second Mecha Empire. Han Xiao pretended that he did not hear Urinril's words and said, Claudia captured Traveler and another Beyond Grade A, reawakening the fear of others toward him. In fact, the mission has already been completed. If he continues to deal with others, it will be too much. Plus, when I was in the secondary dimensions, I even helped him. Otherwise, there would have been more accident. That makes sense, Urinril said. Seeing this, Han Zhao's eyes flashed, and he said, Claudia should have reported the results of Traveler's interrogation. Sorokin also interfered behind the scenes. I wonder if the dynasty has put him on the Dark Emperor's list of punishments? The authenticity of the testimony still needs to be verified. Sorokin's motives are unclear, and Claudia is not suitable to appear. Urinril waved her hands. If the evidence is conclusive, the dynasty will deal with him. Hearing this, Han Xiao secretly gloated. Sorokin had been moving between the three universal civilizations, and now that Traveler had pushed the blame to him, there would be a huge problem in the situation he had worked so hard to manage. He did not know if the dynasty would use force like how they dealt with Traveler. If that was the case, Sorokin's hidden strength would be exposed. The two of them talked for a while. Urinril did not give a definite answer, only saying that she would consider terminating the Dark Emperor's mission. Han Xiao knew when to stop and politely left. A few days later, on Planet Finn, the headquarters of the Beyond Grade A Association, in the Round Table Conference Room, the remote projections of nearly 100 Beyond Grade A members gathered for a routine plenary meeting. The Development Union was currently consolidating resources, and the focus of the discussion was the cooperation plans of the various Beyond Grade As. The atmosphere was lively. Everyone was a reputable figure, and they each expressed their own opinions. There was no bureaucratic style. Everyone put forward their own interests, then exchanged interests with the members who had different resources, slowly integrating each business and building a huge network of interests. For ordinary Beyond Grade As, this was a great opportunity to cooperate with other large Beyond Grade A organizations. As long as they were supported, they would be able to obtain huge profit. After talking about the daily affairs, Manison changed the topic and said, I'm not sure what to do. In the next meeting, the Development Union will introduce two new members, Tolian and Hades. Due to some personal reasons, they missed the opportunity to establish the association. Now that the procedures have been completed, they will attend the next meeting. Everyone could not help but look at Han Xiao, who was sitting in the deputy's seat. Everyone present knew about the personal reasons for Tolian and Hades' absence. The room was suddenly filled with a happy atmosphere. Then, Manison looked around and slowly said, If there are no other questions, this meeting will end here. This time, Garros raised his hand and said, "I have a question for Honorary Director Claude." Hearing this, everyone looked over. Claude, who had been silent, also opened his eyes and glanced around. "I want to confirm one thing. Everyone is now a member of the association and is bound by the rules and regulations. Your Excellency Claude can't do anything to the members, right?" "I only listen to the dynasty's orders." Claude was expressionless, not buying it at all. The atmosphere suddenly became strange. The direct members of the three universal civilizations, who were resting with their eyes closed, opened their eyes one after another, revealing interested expressions. Garros mustered up his courage and said with a deep voice, "I hope the association can handle this matter and ensure our safety. I don't want His Excellency Dark Emperor to suddenly accuse me of a non-existent crime and attack us." As soon as he said that, several neutral beyond grade as spoke one after another, expressing their support for this statement. This was obviously premeditated. Manison narrowed his eyes. The current structure of the association was delicate. Although these direct members of the three universal civilizations had joined the association, it was obviously impossible for them to listen to the association's mediation. This proposal brought the conflict to the surface. Although these neutral beyond grade as requests were reasonable, they were beyond the current scope of the association's ability. He did not have the right to make Claude stop. However, the purpose of the Development Union was to mediate conflicts between beyond grade so it had to be carried out to the end. Manison could not say that he could not do it, or it would shake the foundation of the association and make people worry about the association's ability to enforce its own rules. "I'll try my best." Manison was about to agree first and think of a way later. However, before he could finish his sentence, Han Shao suddenly interrupted and said, "What's wrong? Leave this problem to me. I'll handle it." Garros and the others understood, and all thanked Han Shao. "We'll leave it to Your Excellency Black Star. We'll wait for your good news." Claude gave Han Shao a deep look and did not say anything. Han Shao smiled at Claude and did not intend to speak either. Both of them knew that the person who could make the decision was not here. Han Shao even pretended to comfort Garros, putting on a good show. At this moment, Manison, who was next to him, realized what was going on and gave him a meaningful look. Manison did not mind Han Shao establishing the right to speak. The way he saw it, Black Star was on the same side as him. As long as he could do something, everything was negotiable. 7 days later, Claude received an order from the dynasty ruler to stop the mission and leave the flickering world with the captives. This news quickly spread to the ears of all the members, and in their hearts, Han Zhao's reliability increased by a notch. Black Star had taken the initiative to take over this matter and successfully resolved it, proving his ability. Others knew that he had the ability to handle things and would naturally respect him. This principle was applicable everywhere. To Han Shao, this was just a small episode that did not cost him much effort. As his position rose, his opinion could more and more easily influence the decisions of the dynasty's upper echelons on some unimportant issues. The dynasty ruler still gave him face and increased the authority of the dynasty's ally as the vice president. This was naturally better than him being controlled by Manison of Radiance. On the other hand, Aurora had already mastered the 18 positions of controlling the holy light particle after more than half a month of experimenting. Han Shao did not delay and immediately announced the existence of the holy light particle to the outside world. He emphasized the new system of the holy light seed and announced that as long as one was an army member, they would be able to exchange for the holy light seed. The new source of power attracted the interest of the players and supers, but it was only interest. The ones who had the biggest reaction were the ordinary people. Almost everyone hoped to have power that surpassed ordinary people. This was the shortest path to breaking through the ranks. As long as they awakened it, they would immediately become a super with special privileges. However, everyone was born different. Limited by their talent, most people were destined to be ordinary for the rest of their lives. Now, an opportunity to change their fate was right in front of them, and the hope was not slim. As long as they worked for the Black Star Corps and accumulated enough contribution, they would have 100% chance of obtaining extraordinary power. As soon as the announcement was released, countless ordinary people went crazy. The sensation it created was even more terrifying than all the previous deeds of the army. The previous deeds were just deeds, but this announcement was closely related to everyone's interests. Ordinary people had their own way of living. Even if they knew how powerful the Black Star Corps was, there were still very few people who were willing to apply for a job in a warlord organization. However, everything was different now. The attraction of the Black Star Corps to ordinary people instantly surpassed that of 99% of the industries. In just 5 days, the number of ordinary people who applied to join the army surpassed the total number of people in the Black Star Corps. The number of ordinary people in the entire universe far exceeded the number of supers. In a secret research base of the Holy Covenant organization, a researcher placed a cooler in front of Law and Faye, opened the lid, reached into the white cold air, and took out a device that looked like a small radar. Your Excellencies, this is a detection device that I developed using the characteristics of the primal chaos mysterious energy. It's specifically used to detect the holy light particle. Law clapped his hands encouragingly. Good job. This way we can look for the holy light particle. The holy light particle has not appeared for many years. It's probably sleeping in some secondary dimension and is now ownerless. This is our chance. Is the detection range of this device large enough? The researcher had a confident expression. Don't worry, this device can work with a cross-dimensional detection radar. It's definitely enough. That's good. Faye nodded in satisfaction. Quickly equip it, Law urged. We need to get the holy light particle as soon as possible. Understood, I'll. Before he could finish speaking, an adjutant hurriedly ran in with a communicator in his hand and said anxiously, Sir, Your Excellencies, look at this news. Law and Faye leaned over to take a look and were dumbfounded. The image on the communicator was the announcement that Han Shao had made. We're done for, Law mumbled to himself. Not only the primal chaos mysterious energy, but even the holy light particle was obtained by Black Star? What kind of luck was this? They successfully attacked Black Star last time because the other party was not prepared and did not understand their weapons. The two of them originally thought that they would never have to deal with Black Star again, so they were very relieved. However, they did not expect that Black Star had another primal esper ability that they needed. The two of them looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. It would have been better if it was another Beyond Grade A, but why did it have to be Black Star? Now that Black Star was prepared, the risk of taking action again was at least 10 times higher. They were probably dreaming if they wanted to ambush him again. Are we still going to rob him? Don't drag me down if you want to die. Faye's tone was filled with disdain. Then what do we do? The holy light particle is in his hands. We have to find a way to get it back. How would I know? The two of them were about to explode. What should we do? The researcher looked around and could not help but ask. Do we still need to install this detection device that I developed? What do you think? Author's note. Thank you for the 2,470,000 reward from the Silver Alliance. Han Technician was promoted to grade 1 star. Awesome. Chapter 1094. It's not fair. It's not fair. Inside the exclusive combat room of Black Star Palace, the mysterious energy host, who was standing by the door, did not want to be left out. He kept nagging at the two people training in the field. Han Shao raised his hand and crushed Aurora's holy light impact. He could not help but dig his ears, feeling as though they were about to form calluses. Ever since he learned that Han Shao had found a host for the holy light particle, the primal chaos mysterious energy had lost his mind. He had originally wanted to drag his old friend down with him, so that they could happily be used as tools together, so that he wouldn't feel lonely being trapped in a lifeless vessel. However, he didn't expect that the holy light particle would be treated so much better than him, even though he was the one who had led the way. Why do you get to find a host, while I'm trapped in metal? I want a delicious host too. During this period of time, as long as Han Shao called it out, the primal chaos mysterious energy would constantly nag in his ears, harassing him endlessly. Host! 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 Han Shao had a helpless expression. Can you stop nagging me? I'm nagging you. A vein popped up on Han Zhao's forehead. He could not take it anymore. Are you forcing me to turn on the silent mode of the mysterious energy host? You won't even be able to speak. Hearing that, the primal chaos mysterious energy stopped. Being trapped in a tool was already miserable enough. It was only because Black Star was kind enough to give him the permission to speak. If he could not even speak, he would not have any entertainment at all. However, the primal chaos mysterious energy was still indignant. After more than 10 seconds, he could not help but speak again with a weak tone like a wronged wife. But I want a host too. Han Shao narrowed his eyes and said, How old are you guys? Can you be a little more mature? Are all primal esper abilities as unrestrained as you guys? The holy light particle, who was watching the show happily, snorted. Nonsense. Most primal esper abilities are calm. It's all because of the primal chaos mysterious energy that our reputation is ruined. The primal chaos mysterious energy was furious. You can shut up. How are you any better than me? The host's body is so comfortable. It's much warmer than the tin can, the holy light particle said in a lazy tone. It coiled comfortably inside Aurora's body, receiving the nourishment of her life force esper ability. It was as comfortable as soaking in a hot spring. No matter how much the primal chaos mysterious energy scolded it, it would only use this method to provoke it. Listening to the two arcanists quarrel, Han Shao couldn't help but rub his temples. These two fellows must be the lowest of the primal esper abilities. All right. Let's stop here for today. Han Shao waved his hand. Hearing this, Aurora obediently retracted her ability, and the noisy holy light particle was instantly silenced like a duck that had its neck pinched, as if it was letting out a hissing sound. Uncle, how was my performance? Aurora looked a little nervous. Because she wasn't a combat-type person in the past, she rarely received combat training from Han Shao. The few times she did was as Hella's support, and that was many years ago. During combat training, Han Shao wasn't as easy to talk to as usual. He was quite strict. Aurora had a lot of people backing her, so she didn't usually have the chance to fight alone. Her combat experience was limited, so she was afraid that she wouldn't perform well. It's okay. You have to choose wisely. Han Shao called Aurora in front of him and guided her step by step. After Aurora mastered the holy light particle, she had direct combat ability. Although she usually wouldn't have the chance to fight, Han Shao still trained her personally to help her master the combat techniques of the holy light particle. While he was at it, Han Shao also tested the holy light particle's ability to punish evil. This function was very idealistic. The criterion of evil depended on the heart of the host and the target. The punishment she received was very weak. According to the feedback from the holy light particle in Aurora's heart, he was a great person. She didn't feel that Han Shao was evil at all. The weak damage mainly came from Han Zhao's judgment of himself. He never felt that he was a good person. After teaching for a while, Han Shao sent Aurora away and summoned Philip to check on the changes in the army after the Holy Light Seed system was made public. The announcement of the Holy Light particle had been released for a few days, and the impact was obvious. The various star fields branches welcomed a large number of applicants. The army naturally had to screen them and not recruit just anyone. Furthermore, the salary expenditure was not a small number. The good news was that a large number of ordinary people came for the chance to obtain superpowers. Their goal was clear, which meant that they had strong resistance to pressure. Therefore, Han Xiaoxin had no reason to ask Sylvia to reduce the basic salary of this batch of newcomers to save money. This way they could recruit more people at the same cost. In any case, these people didn't come for the money, so the army could obtain a large number of cheap labor. Furthermore, in order to earn merits, these people would definitely work hard and not slack off. What? This is exploitation. No, this is called fighting for one's dream. The ability to draw a pie is a required course for a qualified leader. After seeing the soaring performance of the various businesses in the army, Han Xiao nodded with satisfaction and asked about another matter. How's the plan for the army tournament that I asked Sylvia to come up with? Let me take a look. As soon as he said that, the virtual screen in front of him changed to a planning document. It was the plan that Sylvia had come up with. Han Xiao browsed through it carefully. Sylvia had basically designed it according to the framework that he had given her. Sparring was only one of the events. There were also all kinds of technical, sports, and entertainment competitions. There were all kinds of events, of which sports and entertainment were the most common. Furthermore, the members of the army could also apply for events themselves. As long as it was reliable, there was a chance that it would be accepted. Han Xiao had no doubt that the players would apply for football and turn the style into Shaolin football. According to the strength of the members of the army, they would be divided into groups according to their grade to ensure that they would all meet competitors of the same level. At the same time, he decided to give the players the choice of being in an individual group or participating in the grade group where the NPCs were. Of course, this kind of event could not be lacking in incentive. As long as they obtained a good ranking in different groups and events, the army would give them generous rewards. This would ensure that most of the army soldiers would be interested in participating. In order to let the members who did not participate or were eliminated early participate, Sylvia suggested that the officials open a betting pool for each event. This way, they would be able to gain the attention of the entire army. As a warlord organization, there were quite a lot of gamblers. Even those who were not good at gambling would be motivated by the majority. At the same time, they could also be the banker and earn back the cost of the event. Sylvia even planned to sell tickets and collect broadcasting fees to broadcast to the universe. Han Xiao felt that this was a good idea. He might be able to make use of this opportunity to run a competition alliance, just like the various sports leagues in his previous life. He would create a platform for supers to show off their abilities. It would probably have a huge audience in the universe. In the future, he might even be able to get other beyond Grade A organizations to join. Since the Development Alliance prevented armed conflicts, he might be able to use this competition as a way to display his strength and let his officers make a name for his organization. According to this plan, this will be a grand event for the entire army, which will affect the efficiency of normal work. However, this kind of large-scale faction event will bring about a significant increase in cohesion. Not only the players, but the normal army members also need to adjust themselves outside of work. It's like a school sports day or team building. Han Xiaoxin mumbled. To the players, the focus of the Flickering World version was to make use of the tide of the times to compete with each other. This was the first national war in 4 versions, and the ultimate goal of the clubs was to achieve good results in the International League. Therefore, if he were to hold a larger competition as an NPC in the early to middle stages of the version, it would definitely be popular among the players and become the prelude for the Pro League. This way, the attractiveness of the faction would increase, and it would go from a powerful organization with many benefits to a tournament organizer in the eyes of the players. If he wanted to participate in the army tournament, he would have to join the army. If he belonged to another faction, he would not be able to participate in this competition. Once the players recognized the importance of the army tournament, the army would be like the guiding faction in version 2.0, becoming an organization that many players had to join. This kind of large-scale faction event is not suitable to be held too frequently. It's best to hold it once every 5 to 10 years. Plus, it has to be given a good name. The army tournament is too boring. Thinking about his poor naming talent, Han Xiao was not very confident, so he brought up Philip. "Give me a name." Philip tilted his head and said, "How about the Army Gala, hum?" Han Xiao's face twitched. "Why don't you call it the Spring Festival Gala? That's too old-fashioned. Let's change it to something cooler." Then, the cosmic hyperstimulation. The Black Star Corps will dominate the Universe #1 martial arts tournament. Damn it, what kind of messy information did those Japanese players upload to Philip? It's better to be a little more simple. Philip changed a few names, and Han Xiao decided to officially call it the Black Star Cup Army Tournament, or the Black Star Cup for short. It was simple and clear, and it also highlighted his name. After improving the plan, Han Xiao sent it to Sylvia and decided to release the announcement of the first Black Star Cup. Such a large-scale event would take a lot of time to prepare, so he decided to use the Pro League as a reference and release the announcement first. The scale of the Black Star Cup was much larger than the Pro League. The Pro League was only for the players, but this was for the entire army. Although there were more than 8 million players in the army, compared to the total number of people in the army, this was only a small number. However, now that most of the players had reached grade B, their importance could not be compared to the past. They were already considered the pillars of the army. In the universe, grade B supers were considered the backbone of the army. They could be considered experts in any organization that was not beyond grade A, and many beyond grade A organizations did not even have as many grade B supers as the army players. In the past few months he had been in the limelight quite a bit, and he needed to digest the impact. It was the best time to turn his attention to the army. This was the best time to hold the Black Star Cup. Furthermore, Han Xiao had another goal that was even more important. The period when the player's impulse to spend was the period before the Pro League of every version. Every time there was a large-scale event, the players would be generous and turn money into combat power. Now that the flickering world was gradually moving from the early stages to the middle stages, although the players had not reached the max level yet, after almost a year of accumulation, the pockets of many players were filled again. Some leaks are ripe. Han Xiao sighed softly. It was as if a light flashed across the scythe. Chapter 1095. In the free competition zone, on a certain planet in the Emerald Star Cluster, on a yellow wasteland filled with strange rocks, hundreds of shuttle-shaped low-altitude combat vehicles were fighting fiercely. They shuttled between the cliffs and peaks that were like obstacles, using them as cover. Scorching laser beams passed by one after another, hitting the cliffs along the way. The protruding rock mountains collapsed one after another. There were 4 kinds of organization symbols on the outer armor of these low-altitude vehicles. One of them was the guild symbol of Rivervale, and the other 3 were the emblems of different foreign clubs. At this time, Rivervale was in a bad situation, being surrounded by these 3 foreign clubs. They had no choice but to fight while escaping to prevent being surrounded. In one of the carriers, Maple Moon stood in the pilot's seat. Her hands were on the spherical control devices that were specially used by mechanics on both sides. Flashing mechanical force connected the devices, turning the spaceship into an extended limb that could move according to her will. While dodging the focus fire, she fired a shot from the main cannon and destroyed one of the pursuers. However, a few black shadows visible to the naked eye flew out from the flames of the explosion. They were the players in the enemy ship. One of the mechanic players threw out a compressed orb and turned it into a new vehicle, carrying a few people and chasing after them again. Seeing this, Maple Moon could not help but open the team channel and said helplessly, "There are too many enemies. If this continues, we will run out of stock. Why don't we just die and go back? We don't want this batch of resources. Hang in there a little longer. Our allies are on their way." Mad Blade focused on dealing with the enemy spaceship and was a little annoyed. This planet was originally controlled by a small mining organization. Rivervale, Long Sky, and the other guilds cooperated with them, providing military guarantees in exchange for a share of the mining profit. This was the common way for the guilds in the free competition zone. However, a few of the middle management members of this mining organization had been instigated by a few foreign clubs from Southeast Asia, and they had secretly helped them hide on the planet. When Frenzied Sword brought his men over to receive this batch of resources, the 3 clubs that had been lying in wait immediately jumped out and caught Frenzied Sword and his men off guard. Nowadays, the battle between players was getting more and more complicated, and they were getting more and more familiar with using small organizations. They had self-taught themselves how to bribe, threaten, and interact with NPCs. What Mad Blade had encountered this time was only a small skirmish. The larger guilds had already begun to form alliances with each other. All sorts of infiltration, backstabbing, and betrayal had emerged one after another. The transportation vehicles of Rivervale were destroyed one after another, and the players could only land on the plains. Maple Moon led the mechanic class players to form a fortress and counterattacked from the air. The other party also landed a group of players, and the 2 sides started fighting on the plains. As they didn't have the numbers advantage, the situation in Jiang City was worrying. After fighting for a while, a few battleships suddenly appeared in the depths of space and rapidly approached. They were Long Sky and the other allied guilds. When the 3 foreign clubs saw this, they immediately took off and returned to the spaceship that was on standby in outer space. Before the reinforcements arrived, they escaped with a leap. Their movements were very practiced, and it was obvious that they had been prepared for this. "Are you guys alright?" Hao Tian and the Long Sky battle team landed beside Mad Blade and the others. They glanced at the mess on the ground. "We've been tricked. It's a bit of a loss this time. Some people died several times and lost some experience." Mad Blade was helpless. There was a limit to the number of times a player could die every day, and the penalty would gradually increase with the number of death. The players were not afraid of death, but they had to die for a reason. Dying without any benefits was naturally a loss. Now, these foreign clubs have their eyes on our Chinese guilds and have teamed up to target us every few days, Maple Moon complained. "There's nothing we can do about it. We earn the most and have the strongest faction." Sleepy Winter shrugged. Now that the Chinese clubs were riding on the halo of the Black Star Corps, they were doing very well in the free competition zone. What followed was the targeting of the foreign club. The previous plan of these clubs to sow discord between countries had failed, and they could not make use of the players in their own faction. They could only do it themselves. In the past few months, they had been harassing the Chinese clubs with the goal of delaying the development of their opponent. Mad Blade was a little worried. "It's fine normally, but if we also get attacked in the Pro League, it will be difficult for us to achieve anything this season. If we also win this season, our China will be the 3-time champion dynasty and enjoy the fame for 3 seasons. The clubs from the other countries will definitely not want to see this," Rainy Kim said calmly. Participating in the competition was to gain fame. Fame was traffic, and traffic was profit. The ultimate goal of the professional clubs was to make profit. The International League was the only large-scale open tournament for the professional teams to increase their fame. Other than that, where else could there be so many people paying attention to the professional teams? Therefore, if China took the lead, it would be equivalent to blocking their path to wealth. The clubs from the other countries would not be willing to just drink the soup, and some of them would not even be able to drink the soup. Therefore, some people would use any means to attack the strong enemy. Everyone was a competitor. If one side was too strong, the others would definitely band together to snipe. It was understandable. Beep, beep. At this moment, the communicators of everyone present rang at the same time. Everyone looked at each other in surprise and looked at their communicators. When they saw the message clearly, they were all slightly stunned. Black Star Cup. On the communicator was a fresh Army announcement. Army announcement. Black Star Cup Army League gathering order to the entire Army. The Black Star Corps has always been on the path of rapid development. With the expansion of our business, the scale of our personnel is getting larger and larger. In order to increase the understanding between the members of the various departments, increase cohesion, and at the same time, to select talents from various fields, the Army has decided to hold a military parade. From today onwards, we will be preparing for the first Black Star Cup Army League. For details, please see Appendix, Competition Rules. Collapse/expand. As long as you are a member of the Army, you can participate. As long as you achieve good results, the Army will not be stingy with your rewards. We welcome everyone to participate. Army Commander Black Star. Just looking at the content of the announcement, everyone did not feel anything. However, when they opened the appendix, the dense content spread out before their eyes. Everyone's eyes became brighter and brighter. They were all shocked by the scale of the Black Star Cup. Oh my God, the scale of this faction event is too big. Maple Moon covered her mouth with a face full of shock. And we can even apply for the event on our own? Twinkle Fried Rice's eyes widened. Just looking at the introduction, the players present were extremely excited. Compared to the scale of the Black Star Cup, the International League was just a small matter. Mad Blade and Hao Tian looked at each other. Both of them thought of more things. This is a good opportunity to increase our popularity. Mad Blade said excitedly. An event of this scale definitely won't lack attention. There are also close to 10 million Army players as the natural audience. That's right. Although it's an event organized by NPCs, as long as it attracts attention, it can also bring in traffic and replace the International League, or even better. Hao Tian agreed. Hearing this, everyone's eyes changed. They looked at this announcement as if they were looking at a huge windfall. Everyone realized that this was probably a new platform for the pro players to shine on. Furthermore, the events would far exceed the International League, which could bring them extremely high exposure. Although the clubs of the other factions could not participate, which meant that the Chinese clubs had no opponents and the competition was not as intense as the International League, on the other hand, was this not an opportunity for the Army players to monopolize? Especially in the early and middle stages of the version, the Pro League was still far away. Many players needed entertainment to pass the time, and the Black Star Cup filled this gap. If the attention was high enough, they would even be willing to prepare for the Black Star Cup with the same passion they had for the International League, turning their accumulated experience and wealth into combat strength in advance. What was the point of saving money? It was so that they could spend it at the right time. Such a good opportunity had fallen into the hands of the Chinese clubs. Thinking of this, everyone felt a surge of hot blood flowing in their hearts, and a strange feeling of gratitude welled up in them. Black Star was probably a party member. Black Star Cup? Seeing the Army's announcement, many of the foreign clubs were jealous. Every club could see that this was an excellent opportunity for exposure. It was the stage they needed. However, only the members of the Black Star Corps could participate in the Black Star Cup. The clubs that belonged to the other factions could only watch as such a good opportunity was missed. It was like watching the neighboring village make a fortune and build villas, while they could only stay in their mud house and land, envious of other people's wealth. If it was just mission benefits, these foreign clubs could still tolerate it. However, now that they had encountered such an opportunity for exposure, many clubs' belief in not jumping ship was shaken. Why is the Black Star Corps so familiar with poking our G-spot? Should we just submit? What is Black Star doing? On the other side, some beyond grade as were puzzled by Han Zhao's actions. In the eyes of these people, such a large-scale event was not only a waste of money but also took up the work time of their subordinate. However, after thinking about it, many beyond grade as felt that they understood Black Star's good intentions. With the development union, there would be fewer and fewer opportunities for them to personally take action in the future, which would not be good for maintaining their individual deterrence. Black Star might be looking for a new way to show off his strength to the outside world. Many beyond grade as sighed. The vice president really thought far ahead. This is what it means to work for our benefit. P.S. I've been away for activities these few days, so I've been a little shorter. Chapter 1096. The day after the announcement of the Black Star Cup, countless media outlets and financial group representatives waved their cash at the door, wanting to buy the broadcasting right. In the large conference room of the Army's headquarters, Sylvia sat at the head of the table. Countless remote projections of the representatives sat below, discussing non-stop. The room was filled with buzzing sounds. Silence. Sylvia knocked on the table, and the entire room indeed quieted down. Everyone stared at her. As the chief administrative officer of the Army, Sylvia was also in charge of external communications. In the eyes of many organizations, she was undoubtedly an important figure. Even if the representatives present were the upper echelons of various media outlets or financial groups, they were still very obedient in front of Sylvia. Sylvia looked around and said with a serious expression, "Everyone has the same intention. Everyone is here for the same reason. Regarding the Black Star Cup Army League, the Army commander wants to create a comprehensive sports event for supers. The scope of the first competition will be limited to the Army for the time being, but people from other organizations may be invited to participate in the competition in the future. The specific details are in the introduction of the competition rules. The Army hopes that the competition will be broadcasted to the entire universe, so the broadcasting rights will be sold according to region. The planet-level broadcasting rights will not be sold separately. The lowest price is the Star Zone broadcasting rights, priced at 15 million ANAs. The Star System broadcasting rights are 120 million ANAs, and the Star Cluster broadcasting rights are 980 million ANAs. These will be paid in 1 to 5 installments. This is only the reference price. If you need the exclusive rights of the same region, it will be done through bidding." Hearing this, the audience was in an uproar. Many people looked at each other and saw the shock on each other's faces. Compared to the status of the Black Star Corps and the popularity of this competition, this price was quite reasonable. It was far lower than what they had expected. Generally speaking, there were two ways to sell the broadcasting rights of such programs. The most common way was to sell the broadcasting rights as a unit, with no restrictions on the region. The other way was to split the broadcasting rights, which was usually used for large-scale broadcasting. Only a few people had the right to activate it, or else the media would not buy it. Of course, the Black Star Corps had the right to do so. The basic unit was the broadcasting range of a star zone, which meant that the broadcasting channels of this media were limited to a single star zone. Although the quantum network was very developed now, connecting the galactic society as one, most media audiences were still regional, equivalent to local channels. The lowest price of 15 million ANAs was indeed not a small amount, but the financial groups and media companies that dared to do business with the Army were all of a certain scale, so it was not a problem for them to fork out such a small amount of money. If the broadcast coverage overlapped, there would be a set of processing system. If the broadcast coverage overlapped with the same coverage, Then the two broadcasters would broadcast together. Otherwise, there would be a bidding war. If there were overlaps of different levels, for example, if one company bought the broadcasting rights of a star system and the other company bought the broadcasting rights of a star zone within that star system, they would either not deal with it, apply to the Army for negotiation, withdraw the authorization, or cooperate with each other. However, the media was strictly prohibited from buying the broadcasting rights of a large area and then privately distributing the broadcasting right. Sylvia summoned Philip's doppelgangers one by one and came to the side of each representative to record their bid. The media representatives thought for a while, wrote down their requests, and eagerly bought the rights. Everyone could see that the Black Star Cup was a business opportunity. Recently, the Black Star Corps had done a few big things, and their popularity was extremely high. This was especially so for Black Star's godlike battle and the Holy Light Particle, which attracted a large amount of traffic to the Army. Out of 10 galactic residents, at least 3 to 4 would pay attention to the Army's news. Furthermore, the Black Star Cup itself was also very attractive. Although there were many supers in the universe, and battles were not rare, this kind of competition where countless supers of various grades participated together was far too rare. Furthermore, there was also a selection process, which made it easier to mobilize the audience's emotions. Furthermore, there were too many competitions, and it was rare to see so many supers participating in so many interesting sports and entertainment events. According to the blueprint of the Black Star Cup, there was a chance that it would evolve into a league with more organizations participating in the future. With the status of the Black Star Corps, there was no need to be afraid of others following the trend. In the long run, this league had a lot of potential. Not only did the representatives present want to sign the contract for this season, some even wanted to sign a few more seasons as a long-term investment. On this project, it's a win-win situation for us. Sylvia spoke while everyone was thinking about the prize. If the Army wants to make the Black Star Cup bigger, we need more media to broadcast it and attract more attention. You guys also need viewership ratings. I don't need to emphasize the scale of the Black Star Cup. This is a rare event. At this time, a financial group representative raised his hand and asked, I heard that the Army is opening bets internally. Do you guys accept outside investments? You can open your own bets, but the Army's bets do not accept outside bet. Sylvia waved her hand. Why is that? If you guys open bets, the amount of profit will definitely increase by a few levels. Someone was puzzled. This is the Army commander's highest order. Sylvia did not explain to everyone. In fact, when she learned of Han Zhao's decision, she also felt that it was a little strange. This was an opportunity to make a lot of money. With her understanding of Han Zhao, there was no way he would let go of this opportunity to make money. However, she did not expect her teacher to change his mind. Later, Han Zhao explained to her that although the Army was rich, the bets placed by the outside world were still too huge. There was a risk in opening bets to the outside world, and there might be some Soros behind the scenes. Closing bets internally meant that the funds would circulate within the Army. No matter who won or lost, the money would still be in the hands of the Army members. On the other hand, if the Army opened bets to the outside world, it might cause some dissatisfaction among the Army members, which was not conducive to ideological development. If the bets were only limited to the Army, the impact would be much better at the grassroots level. It would feel like they were playing behind closed doors. To put it simply, they were not interested in this rotten money. After receiving every offer, Interpius brought the business team in to negotiate. Sylvia left the conference room and rushed to the next meeting. Other than selling the broadcasting rights, the Army was also preparing to find a large number of sponsors for the Black Star Cup. He believed that the Army's partners would more or less invest some money, regardless of whether it was from the perspective of benefits or face. On the other side, Sorokin also found Han Zhao. You want to sponsor the Black Star Cup too? Han Xiao sized up Sorokin's remote projection in front of him. That's right. You're a shareholder of the Limitless Financial Group. Of course, I have to show my support for your project. Sorokin put on his signature fake smile. How much are you prepared to invest? Sorokin gave a number and smiled. This number represents my full sincerity. Han Zhao's heart skipped a beat. This sponsorship amount was a little exaggerated. Your sincerity is overflowing. Are you sure you're willing to give so much? Yes, the Black Star Cup has a lot of potential. I'm very optimistic about this investment. Sorokin smiled and slowly said, Furthermore, we're partners now. Due to certain reasons in the past, there was some animosity between us, so I hope to make up for it with you. Han Xiao immediately understood. Fine, he's here to pay the protection fee. He wants to make up for the losses he caused me in the past. He had used similar threats to take away the position of a shareholder. What was done could not be undone. Sorokin had accepted reality and took the initiative to make up for it. He had to admit that he was indeed flexible. After all, there was a saying that went, just make do. Han Xiao suddenly thought of something and turned his gaze. This guy was probably not only here to make up for their relationship but also for Traveler's matter. The Dark Emperor had captured Traveler and released news that the dynasty was going to hold a public trial. Since he had gone to the secondary dimensions some time ago, Sorokin might have thought that he knew something and came to sound him out. After all, Sorokin had also interfered in the rescue of Hela, and Traveler was one of the few people who knew about it. Of course, he would feel guilty. All right, I'll remember less about what happened in the past. Han Xiao smiled at him and dragged his words. About the tyrant, Sorokin's eyelids twitched. This, without waiting for him to answer, Han Xiao laughed. Don't worry, I'm just kidding. Why would I let you tear up the agreement with him and use the same methods to deal with me to suppress all the businesses you helped him expand? My relationship with him is very good. Like hell I'll believe you. You black-hearted bastard, you're very bad. Sorokin calmed down and probed. I heard that you recently went to the secondary dimensions. How was your trip? Not bad, I went to a lot of places. Han Xiao talked about everything but the main topic. After patiently listening for a while, Sorokin saw that Han Xiao was not going to get to the main topic. He coughed and took the initiative to ask. It's said that the Dark Emperor captured Traveler in the secondary dimensions. Did you meet him? Yes. Han Xiao nodded. Sorokin was delighted and wanted to hear what Han Xiao had to say. However, he realized that Han Xiao had suddenly shut up and had no intention of continuing the topic. The two of them stared at each other for more than 10 seconds. Sorokin could not take it anymore and could only take the initiative to ask, what was the situation at that time? At that time, Little Dark Emperor almost let Traveler escape. He happened to bump into me, so I caught him. Han Xiao smacked his lips and sighed. Speaking of which, this guy has no backbone. I used some torture on him, and he confessed the identity of the mastermind. Sorokin's heart tightened. Who is it? Han Xiao glanced at him and slowly said. He said that he was actually not a neutral mercenary but a secret member of a supercluster civilization. He was ordered by the higher-ups, so when Hela was attacked, he came to interfere. Secret member? Sorokin was curious. Which civilization is he from? Han Zhao's tone was solemn. We did not expect that he was actually from the Modo civilization. So, it's Modo. Sorokin was deep in thought. He suddenly froze and became vigilant. No, Traveler would not help him cover up the truth. He would definitely expose that the reason the supercluster sent him out was because of him. If that was the case, the dynasty would definitely know that he was involved. Then you. Sorokin stared at Han Xiao and stopped. What do you want to say? Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. Did Traveler reveal anything else? You want to ask if Traveler exposed you, right? Han Xiao chuckled. Sorokin's expression tightened. If Black Star said that, he would definitely be exposed. This time, Han Shao stopped smiling and said coldly, "What you did behind the scenes is not right. Actually, he originally planned to hide it, but when Sorokin came looking for him, he realized that his original plan of hiding while the enemy was in the open was not very realistic. Because the dynasty was going to put Traveler on trial in public, Sorokin definitely would not have any illusions. He knew that the probability of Traveler admitting guilt was very high, so there was no reason for him to keep it a secret. Therefore, the dynasty would most likely know what he was doing behind the scenes. Therefore, Black Star would definitely be notified and know that he was scheming against the Black Star Corps behind the scenes. In that case, even if he acted dumb, it would be useless. If he tried to hide it, Sorokin would only be more vigilant. Instead of that, he might as well just say it out loud. According to his understanding of Sorokin, this bastard knew when to back down and when not to back down. He definitely did not want to have a falling out and wanted to find a way to make up for it. After all, even if Sorokin gave him compensation, it did not mean that he would give up on targeting Sorokin. Sorokin paused and showed a helpless expression. "All right, you caught me. My motive for doing this is only to maintain the balance, not to target you personally. However, I did wrong you in this matter. Since we're partners now, I'll give you an explanation to express my apology." Han Shao carefully observed his expression and narrowed his eyes. Just as he had guessed, with Sorokin's thick skin, it was unlikely that he would panic after being exposed. Instead, he would openly accept this matter, apologize in person, and find a way to make up for it. Furthermore, Sorokin was very cunning. He had actually prepared a backup plan for this matter, which was that he deliberately revealed his inner thoughts to Traveler and found a reason for his actions to protect collectivism and attack the united front of the Beyond Grade as, not involving personal grudges. With such a thought as support, even if he was exposed afterward, he would not be targeted so fiercely. This was because the position he showed in this matter was actually the same as the three universal civilizations. They both wanted to attack the united front of the Beyond Grade as. He only made a mistake in his method, but even so, the degree to which he offended the dynasty was actually very low. After all, his method was to interfere indirectly and not directly, so there was a certain amount of leeway. In the current complicated situation of the universe, the three universal civilizations had a conflict of interest with the Development Union. As a member of the association, Sorokin had the so-called collectivist ideology, so in the eyes of the three universal civilizations, he was very likely to become one of the people they could fight for. Although exposing his position would cause the Mecha Empire, Black Star, and the other Beyond Grade as who supported the United Front to ostracize him, this would also become an opportunity for him to get closer to the three universal civilizations, reducing his losses as much as possible. Han Shao had to admit that Sorokin was really cunning. This two-faced guy always had room to deal with the negative consequences with the resources he had. The biggest problem was that he had colluded with the Supercluster Alliance on this matter, so the three universal civilizations would definitely be dissatisfied with this. Sorokin would not be able to clear his name, so he would definitely have to bleed a lot to solve this. The second problem was Han Zhao's attitude. Black Star had been offended, and no one could shake his position now. Sorokin could only compromise and be prepared to be asked for more. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. Han Shao blinked and said coldly, "Let me hear how you're going to apologize to me. P.S. Pushing a book, Han K., newly released in July, a great master of history, once a good friend?" Introduction. Looking back 1,000 years, the Han Palace is still the same. In the third year of Emperor Zhao of Han's Yuanfeng, the ministers in the court were in power. Outside, the Xiongnu had not been wiped out, and the Silk Road was endless. In the Dunhuang Gobi, in a relay station called Xianquan, an insignificant official, Run Hong, threw his pen and shouted angrily, "A man without ambition should still follow Zhang Qian and Fu Jie's example and become a marquis." Chapter 1097. I will provide greater support to the Black Star Corps. The services and resources you purchase from the Limitless Financial Group will only be charged at cost price. At the same time, I will bring a large number of preferential business projects to cooperate with the Germinal Financial Group under your banner. On the other hand, I am willing to invest in the construction of factories in the Black Star Corps' territory regardless of the cost. Through burning money, I will support the perfect industrial chain in various fields in your territory. Sorokin said a lot. In summary, other than losing money, he would also use the Limitless Financial Group's business and funds to help the Black Star Corps develop and provide many preferential terms. Han Xiao calculated in his mind. If all these conditions were fulfilled, even with the Limitless Financial Group's huge business, they would still have to pay a huge price. For the army's territory, the construction speed would also increase. In order to mend their relationship, this guy was not stingy at all. Sorokin had once used a similar method to help the Bloodshed Land develop. Now, the Bloodshed Land had basically completed its transformation and become a strong competitor of the army in the Shattered Star Ring. At this time, Sorokin was willing to give the same treatment as the Black Star Corps, or even more generous terms. As for the support from the tyrant, even if Black Star did not say anything, Sorokin would have temporarily stopped it. Business was business. Han Xiao did not deny it and proposed a new condition. Although the construction of the Flickering World territory is important, the Army's goal is even greater. I want to develop in other star fields. Your Limitless Financial Group has huge businesses in various star fields. You can share this with me. Okay. Sorokin smiled on the surface but was actually gritting his teeth. He knew that Black Star was not satisfied with the compensation but had his eyes on the Limitless Financial Group's business channels. He wanted to take a share of the profits, suck the Limitless Financial Group's blood, and snatch the Limitless Financial Group's business to nourish the Army's business network in other star fields. Although Sorokin was mentally prepared, he still felt the pinch. He was willing to give so much compensation because, on the one hand, he wanted to mend his relationship with Black Star. Even if the chances of Black Star giving up on dealing with him were only 50-50, it was still worth the investment. On the other hand, he wanted to indirectly express his attitude to the dynasty. Although this way, the Black Star Corps might become the leeches of the Limitless Financial Group, feasting on the flesh and blood of the Limitless Financial Group, the most important issue at hand was dealing with the dynasty. Bleeding was inevitable. Otherwise, Sorokin would not have compromised like this. Although the Black Star Corps was strong, he wasn't afraid of Han Xiao when it came to business. He was only afraid of the empire behind him. After this storm, these lost benefits could be slowly reclaimed in the future. The current agreement could also be reneged on. Therefore, Sorokin didn't care about anything else and agreed to it first. Also, I like universal treasures very much. Whether it's the real thing or the blueprints, I like to collect them. The Limitless Financial Group should have some connections, right? Share some, Han Xiao said slowly. I'll try my best to collect some when I get back. Sorokin agreed without hesitation. After all, there was no harm in having too many debts. That's all for now. Fulfill these conditions as soon as possible. Han Xiao waved his hand, indicating that he was sending him off. I still have something to do later, so I won't chat with you anymore. Okay, I won't disturb you anymore. Hearing this, Sorokin stood up, nodded slightly, and ended the communication. The remote projection disappeared instantly. Han Xiao leaned back, deep in thought. Traveler is a loyal subject of the Star Arc civilization. Currently, it seems like only I know about this. I wonder if the dynasty will find out the details in his subsequent trial. Anyway, based on Traveler's statement to the dynasty, he insists that Sorokin is the only scapegoat. The dynasty will definitely send someone to question Sorokin's motives. At that time, Sorokin would definitely blame the Superstar Cluster Alliance. If I told him that Moto was the mastermind, he would most likely tell the dynasty as well. If the dynasty continued to ask, he would probably say that I told him. The dynasty knew that I was targeting Moto and understood my motives. Even if they knew that this was a lie, they might be happy to see it happen and admit to it. In the future, they would use this as an excuse to find an opportunity to attack the Moto civilization and the other superstar cluster civilizations. As for Sorokin, he might not believe my words, but even if he doesn't believe that Traveler is the owner of the Moto civilization, he will definitely investigate and test it out. Han Xiao shook his head and chuckled. This way, the Moto civilization would be the one to suffer the most in this chain of events. In the future operations of the three universal civilizations to attack the Supercluster Alliance, the Moto civilization would probably receive a warm welcome from the dynasty. In that case, the second requirement of the S-grade mission, Kundi race leader's last wish, should be more or less completed. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled, and he rubbed his hands. He had been eyeing the rewards of this mission for a long time. Proof of leadership, the enemy, and Kundi rage, a total of 3 excellent abilities. Currently, the Moto civilization was under the protection of the Supercluster Alliance, so it was not good for him to fight them head-on. He could only wait for the inevitable conflict to break out in the future. The news of the Black Star Cup spread like wildfire. The entire army erupted with extremely high enthusiasm, and countless army members signed up. Most people signed up for entertainment, but a few ambitious army warriors saw that this was an internal selection opportunity and wanted to show their strength. Among the army players, the Black Star Cup also caused a huge reaction. The forums welcomed a new round of spam. Heaven is below, what's going on? Not long ago, Black Star was going to enter the entertainment industry, and now the army is going to enter the sports industry? My scalp itches when the wind blows. Big factions are so generous, like, even dead will get shot. I feel that this is more interesting than the Pro League. Powerless short. The scale of this event should be the largest so far. There are many events and there are many participants. Each person is allowed to participate in 5 events. How many competitions will there be? They can even play cards and gamble. I am your blessing. Brother Fa is passing by with a loudspeaker, laughing. 2 little white rabbits. Not only cards, but there are also singing and dancing events. I even saw someone apply for a crosstalk competition, which was approved by the higher-ups. Laughing and crying, Dragon Emperor Bootlicker. To be honest, I want to see Black Star dance. Soaring Professional Substitute Training Studio. The rewards for these competitions are quite generous, and the quota is very loose. The most rewards are still the combat-oriented event. The top 300,000 will all be rewarded, and there are no restrictions on the weapons we can use. Speaking of which, if we participate in a group combat competition and use things like nuclear bomb backpacks and evolution badges, I'm afraid we can take all the top spot. President of Fu Ding's fan club. Let me take a look, whose wallet is inflating again. Black Star's smile. JPG Bull likes it. Army Commander, this is my team fee for this year. Bow 90 degrees. The Black Star Cup was still in preparation, and countless players called their friends and excitedly took out money to prepare for this event. In the following days, the sales of the logistics department skyrocketed, and Han Zhao's daily experience increased by a large amount. A large number of players learned and leveled up, and more than half of the savings they had accumulated since the start of the Flickering World version were invested in this. Looking at the daily increase in experience, Han Xiao felt very comfortable. The players worked so hard to earn this money, so if I don't earn it, am I still human? At this rate, His level 340 promotion was just around the corner. However, in order to obtain one more God's trait transformation point during his promotion, he decided to use this wave of experience to max out some of his blueprints and skills. Sylvia and Philip were very efficient. With the current status of the Black Star Corps, all administrative procedures were given the green light, and the broadcast media and sponsors were quickly in place. Han Xiao specially allocated a few barren planets as the competition venue, and the professional galactic engineering team, called over by the Limitless Financial Group, quickly built the venue. The Army members participating in the Black Star Cup also gathered. The process was similar to the Pro League. Due to the large number of participants, the qualifiers were used to quickly eliminate a large number of people before slowly holding the competition. After more than 2 months of preparation, the preparations for the first Black Star Cup were finally completed. On the 28th of October, year 730 of the Galaxy calendar, the highly anticipated opening ceremony of the Black Star Cup was held as scheduled. With the support of the media, the eyes of the entire universe were focused on this event. Chapter 1098. Densely packed fleets surrounded a pale green planet. Colorful searchlights passed through the planet's artificial atmosphere, making the sky of this planet appear as beautiful as the aurora. This was a desolate planet in the Army's territory. It had been transformed into one of the Black Star Cup venues. Countless arenas, low-altitude vehicle tracks, large stadiums, and other competition facilities were built on the surface. They were visible to the naked eye from outer space. Other than the buildings on the surface, there were also floating platforms in midair. Some were VIP seats for Army members of Grade C and above, and some were also arenas. Due to the large number of events and participants, there was a need to increase the competition venue as much as possible to increase the efficiency of the qualifiers. At this time, all the media and Army spaceships in outer space locked their sights on the largest floating platform. There was a podium set up there. Today was the opening ceremony. As the Army's leader and the initiator of the Black Star Cup, Han Xiao would be speaking to the entire universe here. Countless galactic residents of the various star fields in the explored universe waited in front of their communicators, watching the time pass by. Finally, it was time for the opening ceremony to officially begin. Under everyone's gazes, a black figure gradually slowed down like a meteor falling from outer space, accurately stepping on the edge of the platform. With a light spin, the black gilded coat was like a black gust of wind, shaking off the sparks that covered his body when he broke through the atmosphere. Han Xiao slowly walked to the podium and looked up at the sky. The searchlights of countless spaceships in the sky were like stars in the distance. Who knew how many pairs of eyes were watching him through the media? With his hands on both sides of the podium, Han Xiao looked around at the stars in the sky and slowly spoke. His voice echoed on the planet through the special loudspeaker. October 2nd, year 688 of the Galaxy calendar. This is the day the Black Star Mercenary, the predecessor of the Army, was established. At that time, I was just a native of a surface civilization that had just walked out of the Blue Star. In order to save my mother planet, I was like an ignorant cub, charging into the vast universe. At that time, this was a world full of unknown dangers, but for the survival of the mother planet and the safety of my friends on the mother planet, I did not hesitate. The speech was broadcasted simultaneously on the internet channels of various starfield. When the Blue Star citizens who were waiting in front of the channel heard the speech, the memories of this period of history in their minds faded away and came alive again. A sense of pride involuntarily rose in their hearts. No matter what Black Star's status was in the universe, in the eyes of the Blue Star people, he only had one identity, and that was that he was worthy of being called the great man of the planet. The first Blue Star to step into the universe was a small step for Black Star, but it was a big step for Blue Star. In the Aquamarine Federation's government building, Bennett pushed away an administrative meeting and stayed in front of the television to watch the broadcast. Now, his hair was completely white, but it was still neatly combed. There were more wrinkles on his face, and he already looked like an old man. After holding the power of the planet in his hands for many years, he had a dignified temperament. But at this time, the corners of Bennett's mouth were raised high, and his face was full of wrinkles. The corners of his eyes were twinkling. When he first met Han Xiao decades ago, the thin figure that remained in his memory seemed to slowly overlap with the tall and burly Black Star now. Thousands of words were used in his heart, but in the end, they all turned into a sigh of satisfaction. Fortunately, I met you, the speech continued, and Han Zhao's tone gradually became louder and louder. When I was weak, I encountered dangers and also met benefactors. Along the way, there were enemies who were at odds with me, but there were also like-minded friends. The initial period is still vivid in my mind, but now that I think about it, it seems to have been a lifetime ago. I spent more than 40 years building the Black Star Core from nothing, allowing it to grow to what it is today and have a place in the universe. I think I have the right to be proud of it. Many members of the army nodded with admiration. Basically, all the members of the army had attended ideological classes and understood the experience of the rise of the army. Even those who joined the army for the sake of their future also admired Black Star's achievements in the past 40 years. Looking at the history of the universe, how many people could start from scratch and create such a huge foundation in such a short period of time? The answer was no. Of course, some people had greater achievements than Black Star, but they had spent a much longer time on it. Black Star was the only one who had risen in the universe at an unprecedented speed, leaving behind a thick and colorful stroke of his own. In the frontline stronghold of the exploration stronghold in the free competition zone, Hela looked at Han Xiao on the screen. The scenes of adventures together flashed through her mind, and her eyes gradually became as gentle as water. Manison, Kasuyi Sorokin, and the other Beyond Grade as were also watching the broadcast. Even the dynasty ruler Uranril took time out of her busy schedule to pay attention. Hearing Han Zhao's words, these people sighed in their hearts. Perhaps Black Star had some conflicts with them in terms of benefits, but from the bottom of their hearts, they also admired Black Star's achievement. If it were them, no one felt that they could have done better than Black Star. What was I doing when I was less than 100 years old? It seems like I was still helping the former leader manage the military logistics? Manison could not help but reminisce. At the scene, Han Xiao listed the achievements of the army so far, and his tone became more and more formal. As mentioned above, the Black Star Corps has achieved many brilliant results, but its contribution to the universe is too insignificant. I feel deeply ashamed, so I feel that I should make a public report to the entire universe, let everyone see our current glory, and strive to give everyone with potential a chance to show it. This is the reason why I organize the Black Star Cup. That's not bad. Uranril nodded approvingly. She liked to see Beyond Grade as enjoy their privileges while also contributing to the entire universe. Unfortunately, most people did not have such awareness. In her eyes, although Black Star was also a profit-seeker, it was already rare for him to have such awareness. As the speech came to an end, Han Zhao's lips curled up as he said with a smile, "I've said enough. Next, this stage will be handed over to the young lads of the Black Star Army. Then, I hereby announce that the first Black Star Cup Army League officially begins." As soon as he said that, the crowd burst into thunderous applause. There was no doubt that this was the sound effect added at the end. He still had to have some prestige. If no one applauded after the speech, how awkward would that be? Furthermore, the members of the army were all in the spaceship, so the applause could not be heard. Amidst the cheers and applause, Han Xiao teleported and disappeared. The organizers of the competition immediately appeared and began to mobilize the players for the opening match. The audience took their seats one after another, and the scene immediately became extraordinarily lively with a boiling cauldron of voices. According to the plans of the group of professional event planners that Sylvia had found, there would be a large-scale performance for the opening ceremony on the first day, and only a few of the more important events would be selected for the competition. There would definitely be combat events. Referring to the style of the Pro League in his previous life, Han Xiao also set up individual competition, team competition, champion mode, capture the flag, and so on. He even took out the playstyle of the Pro League in his previous life in advance and used it for the Blackstar Cup. From ordinary people to calamity grades, there was also an exclusive group for immortals. Each group would pick a representative to fight in the opening ceremony. As for sports, entertainment, and so on, they would choose to fight in the more important events. Quite a number of sports and entertainment events were not divided into groups, and Wayne Cards was one of them. Because it was not divided into groups, it had the largest number of participants. Thus, it was chosen to perform in the opening ceremony. The two Wayne Cards players that were going to fight in the opening ceremony were Herluz, who was highly respected in the Army's circle of card players, and Hardaway, who was a deadbeat in the Army's gambling circle. A Wayne Cards chessboard was set up in an indoor arena. As soon as the two players entered the arena, they received completely different treatment. As soon as Herluz entered the arena, the teasing and cheering of countless card players could be heard. He was extremely popular. On the other hand, Hadavi had only taken 2 steps on the stage before the crowd booed loudly, showing the most sincere respect to this old fogey with terrible gambling skills. A bunch of idiots. Hardaway rolled his eyes. This time, Herluz looked over. The two of them, who had sparred many times, looked at each other across the air. It was as though sparks were flying between them. They could see the same thoughts in each other's eyes. Fu Ding and Nero are not participating. I'm definitely going to be the king of cards in the army. At the same time, the other arena had already reached the Grade D group, and the figures of the players had already appeared. A graduate of the Super Academy was facing a newbie player who had only entered in version 4.0. The two of them looked at each other from afar. Remember the rules. When the opponent loses the ability to fight, you are not allowed to continue attacking. You are not allowed to intentionally injure the opponent, and you are not allowed to intentionally kill the opponent. The moment one of you falls out of the arena or surrenders, the match will be decided, the mechanical referee explained the rules at the side. Other than not being allowed to intentionally injure the opponent, there were basically no restrictions. As long as one did not injure the other party, they could do whatever they wanted. However, there was a special rule for the players. If one did not admit defeat, the other party could beat the player to death. In any case, the player would not die. If there are no problems, let the match begin. Following the referee's order, the graduate did not hesitate. He stomped on the ground and charged toward his opponent's face like an arrow released from a bow. This newbie player was obviously lacking in combat experience. Facing such an aggressive opponent, he immediately panicked. He raised his hands and summoned his pistols. The high-quality mechanical suit he had bought from the logistics department instantly covered his body. He turned into a ghost-like phantom and moved around his opponent. His pistols kept firing, creating streaks of blue flames. He was a cannon master. Shield up. The graduate also activated his mechanical suit. A foldable alloy shield unfolded on his arm. A thin layer of energy on the shield deflected all the blue lasers fired by the newbie player. At the same time, his other hand pulled out an intricate mechanical spear. The tip of the spear split open, revealing the muzzle of the cannon. Explosive bullets shot out one after another, chasing after his opponent's high-speed figure, creating a trail of fire and smoke on the arena. This person's class was a mechanical pugilist. Because the Black Star Corps Logistics Department provided a large number of high-quality faction-exclusive mechanical weapons, many mechanic supers under the Army, regardless of whether they were players or normal members, were willing to change their class to mechanic. This was because they could directly purchase the best weapons that matched their level. As long as they had money in their pockets, they could even directly skip the gunpowder weapons stage and equip themselves with energy weapons. Facing the legendary immortals, this graduate was actually even more nervous. In the Army, the players were a group of special existences that were almost deified. They were extremely mysterious in the eyes of most of the basic Army members. There were different versions of rumors that said that they all had unique skills and were insane. It would be fine if they were just immortals. However, in the rumors, the immortals were a group of lunatics who did not care about their own lives. This was very scary. The two of them fought for a while, creating sparks along the way. The graduate was cautious, but he was surprised to find that his opponent was obviously lacking in combat experience. This gave him a boost of confidence, and he attacked with all his might. Gradually, he gained the upper hand. "Looks like I'm going to lose." The newbie player looked at his steadily decreasing health, pouted, and took out the Black Star Corps badge to evolve. Roar! The next moment, a mutant whose brain was filled with muscles instantly appeared on the stage. This crooked muscular bully pounced and pressed the stupefied graduate under its body in a split second, making him unable to move. A mutant with Grade B combat strength could be said to be invincible in Grade D. At this time, the mutant opened its bloody mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth, as if it was going to bite down. "I admit defeat. Help, help." The graduate was scared out of his wit. Seeing the big mouth that was spewing out smelly gas getting closer and closer, he subconsciously closed his eyes in fear. However, the expected bite did not come. Instead, he felt a thick, soft, and wet tongue lick him from head to toe. The duel is over. Blue side wins. The referee came online at the right time. "Ah, I won." The newbie player jumped up excitedly, shaking his butt seductively twice. Then, he ran to the edge of the floating arena and jumped down, using the fastest speed to get rid of this ugly image. The dance steps of the mutant were too beautiful. The audience who saw this scene only wanted to poke their eyes out. However, at the same time, countless audience members felt a chill run down their spines. The rumors were indeed true. These immortals were really a bunch of lunatics. On the arena, the graduate covered in saliva lay on the ground, his eyes lifeless. He began to doubt his life. The situation that was supposed to be a sure win was instantly turned around by the opponent's suicidal transformation. "It's too difficult for me. As long as no additional damage was caused, items could be used at will in the Black Star Cup." The players were extremely satisfied with this rule. In the Pro League, the Army's various powerful weapons were tightly restricted. Now that they could finally use them without reservation, it was quite comfortable. Although it was a little unfair to the Army members in the low-level division, this was the effect that Han Shao wanted to achieve. He had several intentions. First, it was to let the outside world see how terrifying the players were. Even low-level players could erupt with exaggerated combat strength. Second, it was to stimulate the sales of the evolution badges. When the players in the low-level division saw that the evolution badges could be used to kill anything in their path, would they not be eager to buy them? Furthermore, the evolution badge was not designed to be a one-time use item. It had to be recharged after one use. The third reason was that Han Shao actually wanted the players to get the rewards of the low-level regions. After all, normal members did not have much to gain from them. Only by giving the rewards to the players would he be able to maximize the benefit. It was like fertilizing the fields. What? The normal members were not convinced? It was not like they were not allowed to use powerful items. If they had the ability to joke with their lives, then they could learn from the players and carry a nuclear backpack. Even if someone really wanted to do that, the referee would not agree. Friendship first, competition second. Suicide on stage was not allowed. Oh, except for those who could not die. You say it's unfair? There was no choice. Not dying was their talent, just like those self-healing ability users. You could not prohibit them from using their own abilities, right? That would be unfair to them. If you wanted to blame someone, then blame yourself for not being an immortal. In any case, the final interpretation of the rules belonged to the army commander. If you had any objections, go to him. With this set of rules, even if the low-level members had objections, they would not be able to do anything. They might even feel that it made sense. There was no need for underhanded manipulation. With this rule, the great mechanic Han would be able to achieve the desired result. Just as the opening ceremony of the Black Star Cup was in full swing, at the same time, in the ancient Star Desert Starfield, a civilian archaeological exploration team landed on a desolate planet that no one had cared about for many years. Although they were called an archaeological exploration team, they were actually a group of scavengers. The ancient Star Desert was very old. Many places were ancient battlefields, and there were many mysterious ruins and ruins. Thus, this star field was filled with scavengers trying their luck. They wanted to dig out something good and sell it on the black market to earn a large sum of money. An acidic and corrosive sandstorm swept across the land. In the midst of the hazy sand, a group of scavengers wearing bulky protective suits were setting up various mechanical instruments to explore the underground situation of the planet. A short and skinny monkey-like member operated on the screen for a while. Suddenly, he shouted in surprise, "Boss! Haha, we're in luck. There are ancient rock formations on this planet, and we can't find anything when we trace the age. This proves that the age has exceeded the limit of my instrument's long-range detection range. We need more precise tests to find out. I'll use seismic detection to get the underground structure." Got it. The screen showed a complicated underground cavity that extended in all directions. It seemed to have dug many puzzling paths. At a glance, the scale was not small. There are no traces of outsiders. The short and skinny member was extremely excited. Maybe we've found an unopened ancient civilization ruin. Or maybe there's only a pile of rust left. Another member shrugged. No matter what, let's dig first. A member who looked like the captain said calmly, "Let the spaceship launch the drill. We'll dive." Just as everyone was preparing to move, one of the team members pulled on the captain's arm. He used his other hand to wipe off the dust on his mask, revealing a young and delicate face. His brows were tightly furrowed, and he was deeply worried. "Don't go down yet." This person's tone was hesitant. "I'm a little uneasy. I feel like I'm going to dig up something bad." If Han Xiao was here, he would definitely recognize this face. This was a famous explorer during the World Tree version. The first person to discover the true body of the World Tree. P.S. I've been out for the past 2 days, so I'm free today. I'll be back to normal tomorrow after a day of rest. PS2. You can also use the WX public account and search for Chi Pagea. Occasionally, they'll sort out plot guesses and post character pictures. If you're interested, please follow. Chapter 1099. Harrison Moore, a famous interstellar freelance explorer, was keen on excavating relics and pursuing the unknown. Although his strength was low, he could always miraculously turn danger into safety. Over the years, he had discovered countless historical relics and left behind dozens of books. His spirit of not fearing difficulties and daring to explore, as long as he could not seek death, he would seek death, attracted a large group of followers in the universe, who regarded him as a spiritual leader and a life light. During the World Tree War, Harrison was already old and weak, in a semi-retired state. The 3 universal civilizations were the ones who were discovered and were attacked by the World Tree civilization. They were caught off guard from the start and suffered heavy losses. Because they did not know the origin of the enemy, all the civilizations in the explored universe could only take a beating in the early stages. They were completely on the defensive and could only passively resist the endless invaders. Planets were occupied by the world tree one after another and used as nourishment. The three universal civilizations tried their best to find clues about the World Tree civilization, the most important of which was the location of the World Tree's main body. The World Tree itself was a universal treasure, and the World Tree civilization had already obtained it during the Fire Seed era, so it formed a twisted civilization. All the development of the civilization revolved around the World Tree, and countless people tried to nourish and strengthen this universal treasure. Due to the uniqueness of the World Tree, only by finding its main body could the problem be solved from the root. Otherwise, no matter how many invaders were killed, the World Tree could use the nutrients of countless planets to transform and nurture more troop. The main body of the World Tree was rooted in the secondary dimension world, hidden very deeply, and like the underworld dimension, it was invisible and sealed. In that era, almost everyone in the explored universe was a soldier, and many volunteer explorers spontaneously organized to search the secondary dimensions. Harrison also returned and joined them. Due to a series of coincidences, he was the first to discover the secondary dimension where the main body of the World Tree was. Before he sacrificed himself, he recorded the coordinates of the dimension and threw them into the space storm of the secondary dimension world. This set of coordinates was like a bottle drifting in the vast ocean, floating and sinking. In the end, it luckily fell into the hands of the three universal civilizations, and Harrison's deeds were passed down. Only then did the world learn of his achievement. These were the later versions of Harrison's image in his previous life. In this day and age, Harrison was still a young and newbie explorer. His exuberant curiosity and desire for adventure made him give up the opportunity to inherit a financial group's billion-dollar fortune and resolutely step into this industry with no bright future. As a newcomer in this archaeological exploration team, Harrison's intuition was obviously not very convincing. His teammates all had the spirit of not leaving empty-handed. They all ignored Harrison's warning. Harrison had no choice. Furthermore, his curiosity had overtaken his vigilance. He could only suppress his vague worry and continue to follow the team. A scavenger spaceship passed through the high-altitude sandstorm and hovered 100 meters above, dropping down a multi-purpose drilling vehicle. Its outer armor was full of wild and colorful graffiti. Clearly, it had received artistic embellishments from this group of scavengers with limited cultural standard. Everyone boarded the drilling vehicle and followed the guidance of the radar. They broke through the ground and dived all the way down, quickly approaching the underground cavity on the map. Because these kinds of underground ruins had existed for too long, the crustal changes had caused the structure to be extremely unstable. Generally, there was a risk of collapse, so scavengers would not directly drill into the passage from the side. Their first choice was to go through the front door. Whoosh! Very soon, the tip of the drilling vehicle finally penetrated the rock layer and entered a cavity. All the team members walked down, turned on the searchlights, and observed the surroundings. This was an underground cave with traces of man-made excavation. It was about 7 to 8 meters tall, and at the end of the cave was a tightly shut metal door. It was suspected to be the entrance to this underground ruin. The short detector jogged over, took out an instrument to scan the metal door, and muttered, "Well preserved, not much sign of rust. This is a high-strength alloy material. According to the rough detection results, the synthesis technology of this material is at least at the star system level, but there is no record of a matching material in the database." Hearing this, everyone became more and more excited. The higher the level of the lost civilization, the more things that qualified to be sold on the black market in the ruins. However, this also meant that there were more unknown risks. Is there any energy reaction inside? the captain asked. Let me see. There's nothing at all. The energy here is probably exhausted. Even if there are traps or defensive measures, they are all disabled. Then let's go in and take a look, the captain instructed. The captain instructed, everyone be careful later. Without my order, no one is allowed to remove the shield. The group used a laser to cut open the door, tiptoed in, and groped their way forward. The routes inside were intricate, and the environment looked like a large underground military base. Harrison walked to a sign, wiped off the dust on it, and let the translator read the text on it. The result was that it could not be recognized. There is no record of this text in the database. We can confirm that this is the ruin of a civilization that has not been discovered so far, Harrison said in the channel. Today is really a lucky day. No wonder Ah Xiang finally responded to my daily greetings for several months this morning. The short detector was in high spirit. What did she say? Harrison was curious. She said yes. Harrison, good luck. Everyone chatted as they explored. They were careful along the way but did not find any danger. Only then did they dare to search the rooms one by one. However, they only found living facilities. There was no special equipment, no text documents left behind. Even the energy source and network host were gone. There was not even a single defense mechanism. It looked like this base had long been abandoned, and everything had been taken away. The flames of excitement in everyone's hearts seemed to have been extinguished by a basin of cold water. It can't be. We found an unknown ruin, but we didn't get anything valuable. Did we come here for nothing? The short explorer wailed. It's not a wasted trip. At least we found a new language, an unknown civilization that once existed. Harrison waved the translator in his hand. He had already recorded all the words on the signs on the way. What's the use of this kind of archaeological results? Do they really think we are historians? Someone could not help but complain. If it weren't for the valuable things, who would want to come to this damn place? The scavengers did not have much integrity. Their patience was quickly running out, and they searched faster and faster. Soon, there was only one room left at the core of the base. Everyone cut open the door and walked in. Their breathing stopped in unison. They saw a triangular object about 3 to 4 meters high embedded in the groove in the ground in the center of the room. It was completely black and as smooth as a mirror. It looked a little like obsidian, but the detector showed that it was a metal material. There was a bump on one side, and on top of it was a screen. There was only this thing in the room and nothing else. It was like an exclusive warehouse. "Ha, we finally found something. What is this thing?" Everyone surrounded it in surprise and touched it here and there. Although they did not know what this thing was, looking at its appearance, they did not have to worry about not being able to sell it on the black market as long as it was packaged. The short detector came to the triangular screen and pressed a few times, but there was no response. He felt around for a while and suddenly found a movable board next to the screen. After opening it, there was a socket. It seemed to be used for charging. This is the first time I've seen a socket like this, but it should be fine. The short detector pondered for a moment, took out his instrument, and got busy. Soon, he modified an energy transmission line that fit the socket. He was about to charge the triangular device when Harrison, who had been frowning, subconsciously spoke up. "Wait!" Everyone turned to look at him. "What's wrong with you?" "I think it's better to be careful. No one knows what this device is for. What if it's a weapon that has run out of energy?" Harrison looked hesitant. When he saw this triangular device, he felt an inexplicable palpitation, as if there was a voice in his heart warning him that this thing was dangerous. His innate intuition had never been so strong before. "Don't worry, I just probed it. This is actually a precision one-time safe device. It'll be destroyed once it's opened. It's just that the innermost layer is made of material that blocks detection, so we don't know what's inside, the short detector said without looking back. As he spoke, he directly inserted the plug into the socket and inputted a small amount of energy. The triangular device's display lit up, and a password input interface popped up. The captain came over to take a look. Can the password be cracked? The short detector took out another piece of equipment and fiddled with it for a while before saying with certainty, the password of this safety device changes in real time. We have to connect to the quantum network and then use virtual technology to decipher it. The tools I have now are not enough, but as long as we use a deciphering device with higher computing power, we can definitely open it. I see. The captain hesitated for a while before saying, then why don't we not open it? You said it yourself, this thing is one-time use. If the things stored in it are not valuable, we'll lose out. Why don't we just put this safe in a black market auction and let someone else open the prize? This kind of method is very common in the black market anyway. Can we discuss this kind of thing later? Harrison was inexplicably restless. Let's get out of here quickly. I have a bad feeling. When has your intuition ever been good? The captain glared at him, but he did not refute his suggestion. He ordered everyone to move the device onto the rig. This was the only valuable thing in this ruin. The group did not linger and left with the triangular device, all the way back to the spaceship. Suddenly, one of the team members said thoughtfully, "This is very strange. This is really strange. Logically speaking, since there is a ruin left behind by an unknown civilization on this planet, there should be other traces. However, there is only one result. This doesn't make sense. Could it be that the civilization came to this planet and only dug up an underground facility? That's right. I felt a little strange just now," another person agreed. At this time, the short detector glanced at the radar image and exclaimed in surprise, "Captain, that ruin just now actually collapsed." Everyone hurried over to take a look. The underground cavity in the image had been filled and disappeared without a trace. They could not go back even if they wanted to. "How strange," the captain mumbled, shook his head and ordered, "Forget it. Let's not care about that for now. Mark this planet. We'll go to the nearest black market planet and estimate the value of our harvest today." Hearing this, the group did not think too much. They moved and piloted the spaceship away from this planet. Only Harrison stood in front of the porthole alone, looking at the planet that was getting smaller and smaller in his sight. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. All these signs gave him a feeling that the mission of this strange ruin was to store this triangular device. And the ruin collapsed immediately after they left, as if it had been silently waiting for outsiders to take it away. Harrison could not help but look back. In his sight, the triangular device lay quietly in the back cabin, like a Pandora's box waiting to be opened. The opening ceremony of the Black Star Cup was held perfectly, and the qualifiers were in full swing the next day. The army became extremely lively, and hundreds of millions of members were active on the field, driving the enthusiasm of the entire universe's audience. Because there were many events, every media outlet provided live broadcast and video replay functions all day long. The audience could freely adjust the lens and choose to watch any event, field, or player. Countless viewers held their communicators and watched happily all day long. The viewership of the Black Star Cup in the entire universe was maintained at a very high level. Currently, the average viewership of the various regions was only second to the news broadcast of the three universal civilizations or the local civilizations. The Black Star Cup Competition Organization Department, which had only been set up 2 months ago, had made some calculations. The events with the highest viewership ratings, other than the various battle competitions of Grade B, Grade A, and Immortals, were the entertainment competitions, especially the talent shows, singing, dancing, and talk shows. Countless galactic residents were happy to see the supers, who were rarely seen on normal days, show their talents on the screen. Many talented contestants even attracted a large number of admirers, and the audience on the internet was debating the pros and cons of the various contestants. This proved that no matter what era it was, talent shows were never lacking in topics of discussion. As for the events with the lowest viewership, as Han Xiao expected, they were the technical competitions, such as the mechanical maintenance, mechanical modification, and blueprint drawing competitions that Reynolds had applied for. There were indeed very few people who were willing to watch the technical competitions. However, Han Xiao did not mind. Those technical competitions were purely for selection, to help the army find potential stocks in various fields and replenish new blood. The promotion channels in the army had always been clear. One's rank was linked to one's position, and it could be done by making contributions or gaining experience. The Black Star Cup provided another shortcut to promotion, allowing those of the same rank to rise. The reason why the army members were so enthusiastic was because this model allowed many people to see more opportunities, injecting new vitality into the army. Although the players had their own groups, most of them were more interested in participating in the normal rank groups and playing happily with the NPCs. As the evolution badge shone brightly in the low-level team competitions, more and more players began to purchase this item, and the sales skyrocketed in a short period of time. Using the evolution badge in competitions below grade B gave the players a huge advantage, but it did not mean that they would definitely win. The aberrations were strong in close combat, but their weaknesses were also very obvious. Their magic and psychic resistance plummeted, and their arms were short, making them extremely easy to kite. At the same time, they would continuously lose health. Against some psychics and mages, there would occasionally be aberrated players who would be pressed to the ground repeatedly. However, in Grade B teams, the evolution badge was not that useful. Grade B supers had the strength to fight against the aberrations head-on. Compared to the liveliness of the army, the factions of the other players in the flickering world were much quieter. The players of the various countries were all biting their handkerchiefs, looking at the tens of millions of army players having fun with envy and jealousy. Not to mention participating, we don't even have the right to place a bet. Following the crowd meant 5 people. Most people had this mentality, and this effect was even more obvious among the players who pursued excitement and fun. Everyone is having so much fun, how can I not be included? Compared to the faction war incident more than half a year ago, there were even more ordinary players from the various countries who were shaken by the Black Star Cup. With this, there was a new hole in the corner of many factions. Even the Limitless Financial Group had a large number of people dug out. However, Sorokin was very low-key and said that he was fine. The ones who suffered the most were the foreign clubs of the other factions. They clearly did not do anything this time, but they had to watch the ordinary players leave again, and they could not even find a reason to retain them. They only felt like crying but had no tears. What should we do? You can't do this. Do you have to force us to join the party? Black Star Corps. You're going too far. Even a clay figurine has a temper. Force me again if you dare. If you force me again, I'll really join you. Chapter 1100. More than 10 days later, in the central area of the Black Star Palace, a long blade traversed the starry sky. It looked like a mechanical crescent blade that had been enlarged countless times. It was black with golden patterns, and its structure was complicated. It looked rather luxurious and exquisite. If one were to look at it roughly, they might mistake it for some kind of exquisite figurine. Mechanical rings were attached to different parts of this mechanical long blade. Countless flexible mechanical arms extended out from the inner rings, turning into various tools that moved around the long blade, creating arcs of electricity. These rings were special construction support tools for the construction of giant structures. They were called giant structure assembly rings, and they were currently connected by mechanical force and operated under the control of mechanical force. The other end of the lightning chain connected by mechanical force was gathered above this huge construction site. A black figure floated there. It was Han Xiao. This giant mechanical long blade was the universal treasure exclusive to the mechanical deity, the celestial punishment edge. Han Xiao maintained the view of his perfect mechanical sense and closely monitored every minute energy flow during the construction of the celestial punishment edge. He was like a chef watching the temperature of the fire, adjusting it at any time. You have created a gold-grade equipment, universal treasure. You have received feedback from the God weapon. You have received one God's trait transformation point. Same blueprint cannot be obtained twice. Your random attribute has been decreased by 425 points. Randomizing complete. Your Siege has been decreased by 425 points. You have received 425 free attribute points. You have received Spirit Instrument. Level 3 bonuses. +2. 5% basic success rate for gold blueprints, +1. 2% basic success rate for gold blueprints, +0. 4% space wonder mutation rate. It's finally done. Seeing that the judgment was successful, Han Zhao's tensed nerves finally relaxed. This was the third universal treasure that he had personally created. The difficulty of creating it was even higher than the Emperor's cape. He had failed many times and burned a huge amount of money before finally creating it today. However, compared to the terrifying profits that the evolutionary totems and the Black Star Cup would bring him, this expenditure was nothing. Han Xiao kept all the giant structure assembly rings and stored the celestial punishment edge in the Dimension Factory. Only then did he open up his attribute list and put this God's trait transformation point into the path of his main class transformation, allowing his God's trait transformation machinery to successfully unlock the 5th stage. Yo, this wave of buffs is awesome. Han Xiao was pleasantly surprised. In the first few stages, he mainly focused on improving his production and research abilities. However, after reaching the 5th stage, he finally welcomed a wave of combat power enhancement. The 1x total affinity coefficient increased his machinery affinity by at least 2,000%. Not to mention, there was also the most powerful ability enhancement. The other effects were also more combat-oriented. The abilities of Lord Mechanic and Divine Throne Mechanic were his current main combat abilities. Breaking through the upper limit and increasing it by 3 levels would be of great help to his combat power. At the very least, he would have 3 more slots for apostle weapons. If that's the case, the focus of the 5th stage is to increase the efficiency of my machinery. God's trait transformation machinery has reached the 5th stage. Your life rating has undergone an unknown change. You have gained a new understanding of machinery. Plus 15% chance of forming a unique talent. Universal simulation has been upgraded. You have perceived a portion of the power of the transformation path, unknown talent. You have received the first sanctum ability fragment X1. Seeing this, Han Xiaoxin guessed. From the looks of it, the 5th stage of the God's trait transformation should be a threshold, just like how there are bottlenecks in the Beyond Grade A. If that's the case, could every 5th stage be a threshold? What's the upper limit of the God's trait transformation? 10? 15? Han Xiao was deep in thought. He had the interface and could directly add points to it. However, it was impossible for a normal Beyond Grade A to increase their God's trait transformation level as quickly as his. They would have to spend many years to increase their God's trait transformation level. After reaching the 5th stage of the God's trait transformation, he had received the first sanctum ability fragment. He already had 3 in his hands, but there were no signs of synthesis. He did not know how many pieces he would need. So far, Han Xiao still did not know how to create a unique talent. If the prerequisite was to be immersed in a certain domain, then he had spent quite a bit of time in the machinery domain, but there were no notifications. As for universal simulation, Han Xiao was not unfamiliar with it. He had often used this ability to try and develop universal treasure blueprints, but the progress was very slow. Seeing the notification on the interface, he activated this ability again and entered a familiar world. After carefully experiencing it, he felt that there were some subtle changes. However, this feeling was indescribable. The more direct manifestation was that his thoughts were more active than before. No matter what he looked at, his brain maintained a way of thinking that was similar to epiphany. There's a feeling that I'm pointing directly at the essence of things. It feels like I'm trying to understand things. Han Xiao experienced it for a while and did not discover much. He then retracted his ability, tidied up the venue, and flew back to the palace. Back in his room, Han Xiao went online to check the situation of the Blackstar Cup. Under Philip's management and the massive investment of resources, the qualifiers were completed very quickly. Close to 1/3 of the players had already been eliminated. Before this, the galactic residents in many areas only knew of the existence of the players and did not pay special attention to them. However, this time, because the Blackstar Cup was broadcasted to the entire universe, the performance of the players was seen by more ordinary people and aroused the interest of the masses. Most ordinary people were both curious and afraid of the players, who were immortal and insane. It was as if they had met an exhibitionist. They subconsciously covered their eyes but could not help but peek through the gaps between their fingers. Coupled with the actions of the players in the flickering world, the name Cancer of the Universe gradually spread and was approved by more and more people. On the other hand, the excitement of the Blackstar Cup attracted a large number of foreign players. The size of the army players had been steadily increasing and finally broke through the 10 million mark a few days ago. Han Xiao estimated that the final number of army players at the end of the version would be even higher than the 11.5 million he had previously estimated. The Cancer of the Universe represented chaos, so it was basically impossible to recruit all the players. However, the current Black Star Corps could already slightly guide the behavior of the players. If he could do something good in this regard and make the damage caused by the players not as serious as in his previous life, it would be enough of a merit. Speaking of which, my biopic is about to be released. Han Xiao suddenly realized that he had not touched Fu Ding for a long time and thought of this. He searched online and found that the movie had already been filmed and was set to be released next month. Because of the developed productivity of the Galactic Society, ordinary people could afford the cost of filming, which led to the proliferation of movies. Coupled with the advanced portable communication devices and the popularity of quantum networks, the low-profit cinema business model was almost eliminated. The mainstream model had long become online video platforms. New movies were released on the platforms of various star fields at the same time and could be watched online. The name of the movie was simple and unpretentious. It was called Black Star Origins. This movie was about his story on the Blue Star, from escaping the germinal organization to stepping into the galaxy. Because of the limited time, director Bennett Laver had cut out many stories and only kept the main story to control the rhythm of the movie. Han Xiao had seen the rough cut of the movie before. This famous director was indeed capable, filming his experience with twists and turns. When he finally stepped into the galaxy, he even left a chance for a sequel. In the trailer, Fu Ding, after makeup, wore the outfit of Han technician Black Phantom and moved around in the image with a face that was attractive to both men and women. Looking at this scene, he could only think of descriptions such as graceful like a swimming dragon. So handsome. Han Xiao was very satisfied. They restored my character's image very well. He glanced at the forums. The players were also very interested in this movie. On one hand, they wanted to see Black Star's story being filmed, and on the other hand, they wanted to see them appear in the movie. There were also scenes of the Immortals in the movie. Seeing their own stories being filmed by NPCs made the players feel very novel. After this movie is released, it might be able to increase the cohesion of the army players like Pork Bun's video. If it's useful, I can find that director to film a few more sequels. After making a mental note of this, Han Xiao continued to surf the internet for a while and found another piece of news that caught his attention. The Red Empire announced that in 10 days, the Dark Emperor would publicly execute 2 beyond grade as. One was Traveler, and the other was an innocent person hired by the Supercluster Alliance. Are they finally going to show their might? Han Xiao pursed his lips. This way, the conflict between the Beyond Grade as and the Universal Civilizations would become even more intense. Although there was still a long way to go before it exploded, the seeds of dissatisfaction would only grow. However, the 3 Universal Civilizations' target this time was not the Beyond Grade as but the Supercluster Alliance. They wanted to scare away those Beyond Grade as who were hired by the Supercluster Alliance and cut off their wings. The 3 Universal Civilizations had already started to prepare for their future suppression. On the other side, in the flickering world free competition zone, the Star Arc Civilization's territory, in a remote conference room, a group of high-ranking officials with real power had solemn expressions. The dynasty captured Traveler and plans to publicly execute him. What should we do? There's no choice. We can only give up on him. We can't start a conflict with the 3 Universal Civilizations yet. Although this will happen sooner or later, we're not ready yet. It's a pity. Traveler is loyal to the civilization. This is a huge loss. The problem now is whether Traveler revealed his true identity. If the dynasty knows about his background, they'll have an excuse to start a conflict, and we'll be the main target. Traveler probably won't betray the civilization, but we can't be sure about this. We have to be prepared and not admit his identity. Everyone was talking at once, and they were all worried. The 3 Universal Civilizations wanted to suppress the Supercluster Alliance, but it was not as easy as they thought. They were all advanced civilizations in the universe, and they had to find a reason to cause trouble, even if it was groundless. As the rulers, the 3 Universal Civilizations had to occupy the moral high ground. Regardless of whether the reason was true or not, as long as they had a good reason, it would be enough to give the public an explanation. Therefore, the Supercluster Alliance often kept a low profile and did not want to give the 3 Universal Civilizations any leverage. Their presence in the universe was not strong. On the other hand, the strength of the Supercluster Alliance was only below that of a universal civilization. It was not something that could be easily suppressed. Although the 3 Universal Civilizations wanted to suppress them every day, they still had to be prepared. Be it the 3 Universal Civilizations or the Supercluster Alliance, they both held back for the time being. Both sides knew that this was just the calm before the storm. Around the development of the new star field, they had to do something. The Supercluster Alliance wanted to fight for a glimmer of hope, and the result of this conflict would determine the future of the explored universe. 40,000 anas. 45,000 anas. 45,000 anas going once, going twice. Is there no one else? Okay, 45,000 anas going thrice. This antique produced by the Doge civilization belongs to buyer number 068. On a certain planet in the ancient star desert, in a small private space station outside the atmosphere, a black market auction was going on. The auction venue was a circular room. In the middle of the room was a stand with the auction items on display. The auctioneer was introducing the items on the side. The surrounding walls were filled with virtual screens. Each screen represented a black market buyer who was participating in the auction remotely. Everyone's identity was kept secret. Because it was a remote auction, after the auction ended, The items would be sent to the buyer's designated location through the black market's galactic logistics channel. The auctioneer knocked on the table and said loudly, "The next item is a one-time use safe found by an archaeological team on a desolate planet. This item came from the ruins of an unknown civilization, suspected to be a star system civilization. It can be opened with a quantum network decryption device, but it hasn't been opened yet. What you get will depend on your luck. Of course, you can also buy it for your collection. The starting price is 4,000 anas." A few staff members moved a black and smooth triangular device onto the stage. It was the item that Harrison and the others had dug up. At the same time, Harrison's team was in a VIP room, watching the live broadcast of the auction. After working for so long, the starting price is only 4,000 anas. This auction site is too stingy. The short detector looked depressed. Black market auctions are all like this. The captain was very experienced. "Don't worry, the black market doesn't lack rich people who like to try their luck. I estimate that the official transaction volume can reach more than 20,000 anas. 20,000 anas isn't much," the short detector mumbled. "This is worse than tomb raiding." Harrison was a little worried. "Is this auction site safe?" "Don't worry, I'm a regular here. This is a property under the name of Beast Ancestor, Garutan. No galactic pirates dare to rob it, so it's safe." "Wait a minute." The captain suddenly paused and said with uncertainty, "It seems like Garutan fell a while ago?" "No way, you even forgot such a big piece of news." The short detector opened his eyes wide and hurriedly asked, "There shouldn't be a problem with the transaction, right? I still want to buy a gift for Ah Seong. It should be fine." The captain also hesitated. Beast Ancestor fell, so this black market auction site should have found a new backer. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Harrison covered his face and could not bear to look at them. This group of people is too unreliable. I should just do it alone in the future. At the same time, more than a dozen battleships were hidden not far away from this planet. This was a group of raiders that roamed the ancient star desert. In the main ship, the leader of this group of galactic pirates led a group of subordinates and looked at the planet outside the porthole. "Captain, are we really going to rob them? I heard that this auction site is Beast Ancestor's property and is not to be trifled with. What are you afraid of? Beast Ancestor has already been captured by Black Star. His forces have already fallen apart, and he has already been kicked out by the other managers of the black market. The other people have taken over his forces, and they haven't even finished reorganizing them yet." The galactic pirate leader chuckled, greed flashing in his eyes, and his expression was ferocious. "I've already asked around. The Beast Ancestor soldiers protecting the logistics channel of this auction site have already withdrawn. Without Beast Ancestor's troops, they are very weak now. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.